Nobody's here. How long that was. Oh, David. Tarun, you're back. Hey, Tarun.
Hey. So I remember last week before the winter storm happened, we were talking about finding me a partner. Is that still possible?
I'm sorry. You said because of the winter storm happening. What did you ask me?
Last week, because the week before, you were telling me that I need to find a partner to do the sharing thing with.
Oh, okay.
But then the week got canceled, so I was kind of confused.
Right. Let me talk to you about this first. Like, so you came to class last week, but you left really early. Like you left while the speaker was talking. Why was that?
My phone died.
Why didn't you email me and let me know about this?
I didn't think about it. My phone died and I wasn't able to charge it because I was in the car. So I just continued with my day.
So,
and then when Monday came around,
then there was a storm.
Yeah, so I just kind of it was kind of a big mistake.
And then this week, there wasn't a storm and you still didn't get in touch with me until today about it when I asked you about it. So, so what I'm going to ask is like, you stay through the whole class and then after class, I'll talk to you about this. Okay?
All right.
And I'm going to also ask you to turn on your camera.
All right. Yes, ma'am. I'll do it in 1 second.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine. Did you have any, and then Tarun, I forgot to ask you as well. Did you have any broken pipes or anything?
I lost power for a few days.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you say yes, you did have broken pipes?
No broken pipes, but I just lost power.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. And almost everybody else. I know somebody that works here that lives downtown, and he said they didn't lose any power at all. But like, were you without it straight on for a couple of days and then it would turn on and off?
Straight without it for a couple of days, but I stayed somewhere that had power.
Yeah. Oh, good, good. I have a gas stove, so it wasn't quite as bad as like, you know, I saw people posting their thermostats and like inside of their house, it would be like 15 degrees. It's so horrible. And like people died because of it. It's such a nightmare. Well, I'm glad you didn't have any trouble with your pipes or anything. What about you, Tarun? Am I saying your name right? Tarun?
Yeah, yes, you are.
Yeah, yes. Did you have any broken pipes or anything?
I don't know. We don't know if a pipe broke or not because the water just stopped coming as fast. It was like only dripping.
Yeah, yeah. So you
So
probably, if you have water right now, you probably didn't have a broken pipe. It probably just like froze up some. Hey,
yeah, it stayed like that till like I think Monday.
oh man. Hey Alondra, how are you? Let me ask her to unmute. Hi Renee, how's it going?
Going all right.
Yeah. Did you have any broken water pipes or anything?
Yeah, one of the pipes for what do you call it? The washing machine burst.
Oh
We
no.
replaced it. Yeah.
Were you able to get it fixed?
Yeah, they got it fixed.
Oh, good. What about you, Alondra? Are you still on mute?
I just had the power go out for a few days. I didn't really have trouble with the water.
Okay, good. That's good. It was very awful. Like, regardless of people, if your pipes broke or not, like going without the power was not very much fun. And I hope none of you had variable electricity plans, because those are the ones that are getting those horrible bills. Let's see. Oh, look, it's time for class to start. Where is everybody? Let me just start calling the roll. And then we're gonna, I don't know why I'm having trouble hearing right now. Just a second. Okay. And then we'll talk about what's gonna happen today. So, Sarah's not here, Londra's here. Yeah, I hope other people show up. This is kind of like a little bit depressing. Taryn's here. Where's Renee? Renee's here. We have anybody else yet? Wow. Okay. While we're waiting for all the people that are here right now, I'm going to ask you to check your Blackboard message. Tarun, I haven't sent you any messages. Maybe I sent you one, but everybody else check yours, because I've been sending people Blackboard messages and people have not been responding to them. So why don't you take a minute and do that right now? And I'm going to check my messages to see if anybody's telling me why they aren't here. I know that I already heard from Alicia. She's been sick. But hopefully everybody else will show up. Otherwise, I'm going to be really sad.
Hello.
Oh, goody. Hey, how are you, Sarah?
Doing good.
Did you have any broken water pipes?
My apartment building did. They just turned everything back on yesterday.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, they had to shut my water off for the entire apartment buildings.
And were you able to go elsewhere and get sufficient water?
Yes.
Oh, that's good, because that's also been in short supply too. Like I went to the store yesterday and still in the water section, like there was hardly anything there.
My big thing was I was trying to find like fresh fruit and vegetables and coffee for my coffee. And I went to several different stores and couldn't find it.
Yeah, I on the Thursday of that week, I went to the store and there was no produce at all, and all there was like weirdly meat and cheese. And I don't even eat that much meat, but I sure did that week. Sarah, what I'm asking everybody to do for a few minutes while we're waiting for people to show up is to check your Blackboard message, because I have been sending people Blackboard messages and then no one responds. You may have responded to all of mine, but just check it to make sure.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna wait like 2 more minutes and then get started because we today we have 2 guest speakers. One of them is Robert Hodge, pardon me, and he'll be here at noon. And the other one is Julie DeVries, and she'll be here at 1 o'clock. So I'm gonna open a PowerPoint while we're waiting for them. And we're gonna talk a little bit more about composition. And if we have time later in the class, we'll take pictures again. Last week we talked about, not last week, we didn't talk about anything last week, did we? The week before last, we talked a little bit about symmetrical composition and bilateral, like bilateral symmetry and absolute symmetry. And that's usually where things are centered and the left and right side of the image, they're more or less mirror images of one another. With asymmetrical symmetry, this one's, oops, sorry. This one's a little different, and sorry, I'm like just trying to move the images so I can see my PowerPoint. This is when the 2 sides of the artwork are not mirror images, but they're still visually balanced. And I'm gonna show you and talk to you about the hallmarks of asymmetry, how you can recognize it. So I'm going to talk about it with this picture, but then I'm going to go talk about it with that next image that I showed you. So with asymmetry, a lot of times things like figures and objects will be lined up at a diagonal. So you see these boys here are like, if I start down here and I go up, they are aligned at a diagonal. Does that make sense so far? It can either be from the bottom or it can come from the top on either the left or right side. It doesn't matter, just as long as they are aligned at a diagonal. Something else that helps you recognize asymmetrical balance is, I like to think of this in terms of stair steps. So there might be something lower down here, something a little higher up, and then something a little more high. I can't even talk to the higher than that. So it's almost like you're thinking in terms of a set of stairs. So we'll talk about asymmetry in relationship to this photograph by Helen Levitt. So I'm going to break this down. So you identify an asymmetrical balance by the images will be organized diagonally, like the mother's here, the Model T's here, the little girl's here, and the sidewalk is here. So it's, again, it's like those stair steps that you're thinking about. And again, it can be either to the left or to the right that it's lined up like this, or even on both sides. Something else that helps us identify asymmetrical balance but is also useful when you're talking about symmetrical balance, has to do with a repetition of some basic formal element that is repeated throughout the whole image. So examples of basic formal elements are different kinds of lines, or different kinds of shapes, or different kinds of like a repetition of the same color, or a repetition of the same value. And by value, I mean that they are, sorry, I went back the wrong direction. By value, I mean, when we talk about value, we talk about how light or dark something is. So in this particular picture, something that repeats throughout the whole image and leads our eye throughout the entire image are certain kind of lines. And I'm giving you like a really brief explanation of something that we would spend a long time on in a class like Intro to Visual Arts. So there's these certain kind of lines. So one kind of line is called line of sight, and that is when someone is looking at something or someone else. So in this image, the little baby girl is looking at her mother, and that's leading us to another part of the picture. There's a group of people standing back here on this porch, and are these stair steps, and they are looking toward the mother. So we're looking at the little girl, the mom looks at the little girl looks at the mother. These people over here look at the mother. So those are helping us lead around, but also there are other kind of lines here that are helping lead us around the picture. And one of these is called an implied line. And an implied line, look, Robert's here, is, and let me just look at the time. An implied line is a kind of line that is when somebody is either moving toward, pointing at, or gesturing toward someone or something else. So the mother gestures toward the little girl moves toward the mother. The Model T is moving in this direction. So those are implied lines. And then Robert, I'm gonna let you talk in just 1 minute. Let me just finish this one little thing. And then
I'm just here to jump in early. No problem. I just wanted to be on time. So.
Oh no, I'm so glad you're here, and thank you so very much. I appreciate it. And then like another sort of line within this are these diagonal lines that are caused by, in this case, one point linear perspective. So we imagine that back here there's a vanishing point, and then each, like with 1 point linear perspective and 2 point, but with 1 point, the further away something is, the smaller it's going to appear. So even though in real life we would know that the width of the street was all the same no matter how far you went back, but when we look at it, because these things are further away, they appear to get smaller. So these existing diagonal lines along the road, along the sidewalk, along the rooftop, they also are creating lines that help move our eye throughout the image. So then, like, when a lot of times people, when we're talking about asymmetrical balance in my classes, they'll assume because it is not symmetrical, then possibly it's not well balanced. But that's not true. Like, asymmetrical balance can be as equally well balanced as something symmetrical. So in this particular picture, I've kind of badly photoshopped the baby so that I moved it over here rather than where it is in the image. And remembering what we talked about like before the snow populous or whatever. What, can anybody remember what it is about now the alignment of things that make it not very well balanced? Anybody want me to call on them, or you want to jump right in? Renee, do you remember? Hey, Renee, do you remember?
No, I'm trying, but I can't.
That's
Is it-
understandable.
Is it because the child's not centered?
No, it's not that, because even here she's not centered. Look at the, like, see this light pole here? The light pole lines directly with the baby. And then where does that lead us? It leads us out of the picture. So over here, because it's not aligned, and because like even these implied lines of the water on the street, they lead us to the baby. The baby looks at the mom. The mom's arm points this direction, that implied line. The Model T's move in this direction. The people are looking this direction. And because of all those different types of lines moving in different directions around the picture, it keeps our eye within the photograph. And having done so, that kind of helps to establish that it's well balanced. Let's just look at a couple of more pictures, and then I'm going to let Robert start. And Robert, you know, this isn't a large class, but I think, you know, like the storm and everything last week threw everybody off, so not everyone is here yet, but regardless, we'll start without them in a few minutes.
Okay.
So like, let's talk about one more picture, and then we'll give the floor to Robert, who I'm so grateful is here. So this is also a photograph that is asymmetrically balanced. So the first thing we do is we think about is if we divide this down the middle, you'll see that the left side of the image and the right side of the image are not mirror images of one another. Then we also see that there is that diagonal alignment, like in several instances in this, but the little girls are here, and then if we angle back, we come to this man. So again, it's kind of like stair steps a little, like there's the barn and the girls, then there are the houses, then there's the man, and that's gonna help establish that it's asymmetrical balance. And then like, so it's asymmetrically balanced, but is it well balanced? And the answer in this case is yes, also because again, you have repetition, or you have repetition of a couple of things distributed throughout. And one of those things is there's a lot of texture. So there's texture on the girls. There's the texture in its pattern as well. There's texture in the grass. There's texture in this field. There's the texture of those clouds. And we see texture, 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 texture. And that leads us all over the image. There's also a repetition of those kind of lines I was talking about. The man is looking at the girls. That's a line of sight. The girls look at us, which cause us to look back at them. There's all these are called directional lines, lines that lead directly from one thing to another thing. So there's the line along this path, the line along these plants, and there's also a kind of directional line is like a row of things. So there's a row of houses. So all these lines, all this pattern, and all these similar shades of gray keep our eye moving around this image. Let me see if somebody else showed up. Hilda, you're here. How are you?
Yes, hi, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm here. My internet
No.
wasn't working.
No, that's fine. Did you have any trouble last week? Did your pipes break or anything?
Oh, no, thank God, no.
Oh, good.
But the internet, yes.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, everybody's internet last week. That's why we're like assignments that were supposed to be due last week are not due until today. So so Robert, I'm gonna make you a co-host. Let me stop my share here. And Robert, I'm gonna make you a co-host right now. And do you feel like starting now?
Yeah, we can start now.
Okay. And then I'm gonna spotlight you. Like you're in the kitchen.
No, I'm actually at David Schultz's gallery.
Oh,
I took over the
okay.
gallery. He gave it to me to make my studio, so I'm actually making the artwork for the show inside of the gallery.
Oh,
And
that's
then we have the
great.
show. Yeah, so it's kind of what we do anyway. I'm going to set cameras up where people can watch the work being made. We can have like live talks and lectures and all kind of things happening inside of the studio.
Oh, nice.
Because it's COVID, man, like how do we engage people differently in this situation? Because last week was traumatic for me, man. I was cold everywhere. Everybody knew pipes burst. It was just a lot of chaos.
And your mom, how's your mother?
She's okay. She's I think going to check out soon, but her heart is back beating normally, and so yeah, we all excited to have her home soon.
Oh, good. I bet you will. And I'm gonna say, let me just interject 1 second. So everybody, for the people that came in a little late, they take notes while Robert's talking and while Julie's talking, because there's going to be journals associated with both of their talks. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I don't know how many people online. I can't tell. It looks like a small class, and that's awesome. So we can have a really organic, kind of intimate talk. I'm just going to share with you some of my work, talk about my practice a little bit, and I'm open the floor for anybody to ask questions or even engage with me while I'm talking. Please feel free to speak up and ask questions. You don't have to just sit there silent and be awkward. We can really just talk about art, questions you might have about the art world in general, and keep it pretty fun. So I'm gonna share my screen. Sorry, I got a lot of stuff on my desktop, but I made a little PowerPoint. All right, can y'all see that? Is it taking up the whole screen?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, again, my name is Robert Hodge. I was born here in Houston. I think I'm a product of Houston, but I left after high school. I went to HSPVA, and from there I went to Pratt for a little bit, and I went to Atlanta College of Art, and I stayed in Atlanta for 5 years, making art and music, and I came back home because I really thought if everybody I think is really great and creative leaves Houston, how do we upgrade our city to become like an art destination? And we have a lot of artists that are in the art world right now doing amazing things, even in music, they're from Houston. So we have a lot of potential, but a lot of people kept leaving because we weren't being supported properly in Houston. At the time when I was coming, it was hard to find funding. It was hard to be taken seriously. And, so at around 23, I started my own gallery. And I was just really curating young artists about 16 and 17. Just because, I wanted to create a scene I wanted to see here because it wasn't happening in the way I wanted it to happen. And so even before I start my talk, I encourage you that if you got a vision and you want to see something happen in Houston, you got to do it yourself. And I still hold that testament today. As we speak right now, I have a show downtown in the old Forever 21 building that we transform into an art space. So it's 23,000 square feet with over 40 artists, mainly from Houston, and it's over 100 works inside the building. The closing weekend is actually this weekend downtown. So if you guys want to come, I'll have you email me and I'll give you a VIP pass and you can come to all the programs this weekend.
Robert, I'm sorry to interrupt. What building is that in?
It's the old Forever 21. It's 1201 Main Street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's called Collective for the Culture 3. And that show pretty much is where we highlight and honor Houston artists that are early, like, kind of really starting off in their career. We have mid-career artists, and we have, like, I call them living legends. And that's like people like Rick Lowe, George Smith, Patrick Mandrano. These are some artists that are here that have been here doing work a long time that are really valuable to the culture. So besides just having artwork, we got culinary artists, we have fashion designers. We merged all this culture together in one building, and so far it's been doing really great. And we decided this year to ticket people $20 of cost, and it's not really about making money. It's about like honoring the artist's time and energy to make these shows. And I feel like if you go to MFA and pay with no problem, you should be able to do it for Artist Run Space to support artists in real time. So we decided to make it a ticketed event. So I'm gonna jump into some work what I've been making like recently and some stuff in the past. And so these group of maps I'm about to show you, I made based off Miles Davis' Sketches of Spain album. That album was just really, it's really important to me in my practice and in my studio. When I'm making art, I tend to listen to a lot of jazz, if not hip hop, but mostly jazz. It's no words, and it's all about movement and being spontaneous. And I want to include that. I want that to kind of translate to the art. So this body of work is really about like Afro-Latino connections and our history from the past to the future. And because I believe in just connecting everybody in general, but especially people of color that have the same mission and kind of go through the same struggles. So a lot of the work is spontaneous. I do a lot of research at first, as far as like looking for masks and maps and all kind of strings I think are relative to my narrative. And then from that point, I become spontaneous. To me, that's when it's like being a jazz musician. I do all my research, all my study is done, and then I can have fun and kind of jump into the reason why I became an artist. And that's, color, composition, texture, all the things we love about art. But then, you want to include that narrative that, kind of brings in the conceptual element of being like I said, an object maker. It's not even I make it as an object. Sometimes I make music. Sometimes I make film. I do a lot of installations. So I kind of use whatever vehicle I need to use to tell a story. So I'm not committed to any kind of form of like one particular way to tell my story. Because as you know, if you do one thing, sometimes you kind of get bored. You feel like you may be hitting the glass ceiling in what you're doing. And so I also recommend just like being like experimenting and not being scared to start a new practice in your art and not being really good at it and giving that time to develop and be good. Because when you start anything, most times you're not gonna be the best at it. And I think that kind of discourages people from like trying different techniques because they know they might be really terrible at it for a year. But it don't really take long to start getting, your chops up in any kind of field, learning how to edit, learning how to, be a printmaker. So again, I'm gonna encourage that. These are just more kind of maps from that series from the Miles Davis Sketches of Spain. So each painting is named after a song. As you see drawing, you see printmaking, it's silk screen, it's hand paint. So I sew into the maps, and these maps like from the maybe late 60s, early 70s, those kind of roll down maps you see on TV. I just kind of wanted to transform them and make them to a language and kind of change the narrative of what the maps were saying. Because a lot of times on these old maps, they weren't even the correct size of how big the countries were. It was like, so they made certain countries smaller on purpose. And so these are just a really great backdrop to tell stories I want to tell. It's a lot of handwriting in my artwork, and I just use my paintings like a journal. When I hear something I think is really relative, or I'm going through something, I'll just write it out, and so it becomes a layer inside of the painting.
Hey, Robert,
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Do you mind like picking one of these two and then go like more in specifics because I'm really interested in what they say and where the images come from, like you just described.
Absolutely.
One of these. Thank you.
So the one on the left, as you see at the top, it says stereo. And so that particular word is important to me because I cut and use a lot of vinyl records. And if you notice on vinyl, it says in stereo. And to me, that's just like being loud, being clear, being very direct in what I'm saying. And so that stereo, that logo becomes like, kind part of my painting practice. Just it's like a symbolism that's there. It's kind of something that when you see it, you kind of know it's my work as well. And
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you please repeat it?
all right, my phone just jumped in. My phone is haunted. It just jumps out. Siri just always
Siri.
So to see you at the crossroads, so you won't be lonely. It's across. Of course, we don't know hip hop is from Bone Thugs and Harmony. And so, like I said, I pull a reference from all type of hip hop songs. You got the chess piece, you got the horse. And I broke down chess because that's the way I think in terms of life and how I make my movements. I try to plan. I try to think about the steps ahead. And so, of course, the horse, you know, it can jump 3, go 1, or go 1 and jump 3 in different directions. And so you got like the colonization drawing. I'm dealing with, of course, the map. You know, I'm always thinking about how we got here in the first place is, you know, with the idea of traveling through the Atlantic. And, you know, they call it the triangular agreement now. That's the word they're using for it, like the slave trade. Instead of saying slave trade, it's all these really polite words that talk about people being enslaved and brought over to America. So I kind of deal with that. And the bottom portion of the painting is like how slaves were actually in line in the ships. And so I use this really imagery that we all been seeing forever, but I just kind of make it almost into like pop art, you know. So a lot of these prints I made were in Pittsburgh. So I go there like once a year and I work with a print shop called Air, and that's artists in residence. And so when I go out there, they give me the whole building. It's a 2-story building. We lock it down. I have like 4 people working with me. They have a futon and a shower in there. So I just stay there for like a month and just crank out a bunch of work. And really that's why I do my research to figure out the images I want to use, and then I make a whole bunch of it. I try to make as much work as I can, and I bring the rest back to Houston, and I finish the paintings. So if you go to the right side, that guy on top of that ship, that's George Clinton. He's from this group called the Parliament. And to me, he represents my icon of Afrofuturism, like what do we look like in the future? And George Clinton is so important to me because he was even thinking about that in the 70s, like how, you know, I have a friend named Alicia Wormsley, and she has a project called They're All Black People in the Future. And to me, that's important because I'm thinking like, how do we find ourselves as people of color in the future? Where we place that in politics, you know, and the real infrastructure of America, so we can really shift the dynamic of what's happening. Like you all know, you guys were out power last week, you know. As artists and creators, I think we also need to find our way to figure out how we fit into politics, because there's no reason why a major city, a state should have been out of power for a whole week. I mean, so many people died that didn't have to. And yet that doesn't have to do with art, but it does because we're all interconnected. It's all ties together. So my work just kind of tells those narratives of like past, present, and future. On the bottom of this left map right here, as you see, if you don't know, that's Harriet Tubman. And so I play with these different colors of Harriet. So this is like printmaking, you know, I just do random, various contrasting colors, and I find ways to incorporate them back into the work. And so this part of the work to me is the fun part. You know, after I do the research and make the drawings, I start figuring out how to just make really great, aesthetically looking, pleasing paintings that also, you know, translate my message of occlusion, of you know, history, music, and yeah, it's really just great work, man. Because at the end of the day, without the paintings kind of speaking to people, the message doesn't get through. So I'm very conscious of making conceptual work, but making work that feels great to look at and has great energy. So that's what we have here. So I don't know if that helps, Beth. I'm sorry.
No, it does. It totally helps. Thank you. And I love this work.
And these are 2 more, these kind of together. You know, the images that these are like this mask I researched from my tribal experiences I thought were important. And then you have the Nefertiti image. And so like I said, I was in Pittsburgh making stuff, and I was thinking about Andy Warhol and who he decided that he thought was important to make into pop art. You know, and he was kind of part of the machine of celebrity that kind of makes celebrity really big, like in the late 70s, of course, 80s. And so I picked people throughout history who I thought were important, and I kind of want to put them in the pop, in kind of a fine art, kind of pop art context. You know, it's not exactly fine art, but I think we start repeating images it becomes to give you that idea of what I was trying to do, you know. And so these like my odes to being in Pittsburgh, and also really kind of Afrocentric, really just futuristic work. And I'm really big into like, you know, just using freehand and sewing. And so I leave room to be spontaneous, cross things out, right back into them. And for a while, you know, I was doing this really technical kind of work, which is kind of these here, which I love to make, but they take a lot of work, and it's more of a labor of love. And this piece is called Spaceship. And it was a reference from a Jay-Z and Jay Electronica song where they were talking about the cotton fields and then going to spaceships. And so I'm just really intrigued, like I said, with the future and like, what does that look like for us? And so this is made of all reclaimed paper. Those posters you see on the side of the gas stations, I'm the one that's like putting those posters down and getting a bunch of them. And then I have a process where I use a lot of water and glue and I layer them back. It dries out, I sew into it, and I start carving into the paintings. And so they're really text-based, but I think they leave a lot of room for imagination. And so I got to the point where I start realizing how text was so important. Like I think, which is just word right here, when you see spaceship and the color, your mind can go to a million places. So I thought, wow, man, this text is just as valuable as making real life images. So I started really myself.
Hey, Robert, I got another question.
Yes.
So you use like especially like starting here, you use a lot of salvaged objects and found objects. And what is your reason for doing that?
Well, it's really accessible.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, I grew up in Third Ward. My studio was on for years on the property of Project Row House. So it's just a lot of stuff on the street. A lot of people are, you know, you get that part of the month where you put all your heavy stuff on the corner. And so I'm riding by and I'm seeing all of this great material. I'm saying, like, you know, and actually the guy on the street over me, he had like a little patch in front of his house that was full of cotton. I've never really seen real cotton.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, I actually picked this cotton from his house and to make this piece. So that neighborhood just had a vast amount of materials to pull from. And I just think, why not? It's kind of like I'm doing my part with recycling as well. You know, I'm reclaiming paper, reusing it, I'm taking objects I found. And I don't mind buying things, but I guess when I see something that really pulls at me and tells me to grab it, I just pull over and I grab it. So
that's awesome. That's great.
So for example, this next one, Stand Your Ground, I made this one in 2014. And this was part of my solo exhibition at the Contemporary Arts Museum that was curated by Valerie Cassell Oliver. And I made this piece after it's based off the Stand Your Ground law in Florida, but after Trayvon Martin got murdered, I made the piece and I just used the text because it means so many different things to so many people, you know. But do you guys know the law in Florida, the Stand Your Ground law? You guys familiar with that?
To what?
The Stand Your Ground law in Florida.
Oh, yeah. But will you explain it to them? Because they may not be. Yeah,
so basically in Florida, if somebody, if you feel threatened, somebody approaches you and threatens your existence in a different way, you can actually, you know, if you were to kill them, you can use the law of Stand Your Ground. And so that's what kind of the officer used against Trayvon Martin to really get it off, because he's not a real police officer, but he's security. And he felt like his life was threatened. So he had just cause to kill him because his life was threatened. And even though the law is very flawed, it still leaves a lot of gray area to get off of cases, especially if you're law enforcement, to not be properly penalized for murder. And so instead of making some kind of graphic painting, I thought the text was enough because it opened up dialogue, and it also let people go places that maybe they didn't want to go with me. Like I said, if you guys don't know the Stand Your Ground law, this could mean something different for you. This could mean, hey man, you know, I've been bullied my whole life. I'm standing my ground now, and now I'm being strong. You know, you can pull up so many meanings from text, and that's why I kind of loved it as well. You didn't have to be specific. You didn't have to follow the path. I wanted to go with what I was saying. I let the audience kind of go whichever way they read that piece. And so the piece is really about material and really about a feeling. And so as you see, the paper's kind of burned into, that's all reclaimed paper, and it has that feeling of history on it. And more than anything, I want people to feel things when they look at the work, even when they don't understand the context of where the lyrics come from or what I'm trying to say. I think that's all we can do as artists is like try to translate that feeling. So besides work like these, I also make these collages. And these collages are something I started making like after Trump got in office. I was like really in an uncomfortable place in my practice. I wasn't enjoying being an artist anymore. I had all these deadlines. I was just doing all these shows, but I wasn't really taking time to like digest the work and sit with it. And so one of the things that brings me joy is like collecting records and listening to old soul music. And so I started going to record stores and buying all these dollar records. And while I was starting to cut the collages out, I was actually listening to all this music. So my music knowledge just expanded from like more hip hop, jazz, soul to country, bluegrass. I mean, you know, classical music. So it really changed my taste in music, but it also allowed me to make these collages that had this diversity that allowed me to tell a narrative within the story of the collage from people that already existed, like Donna Summer and like this woman right here in the front with the hat on. That's Stephanie Mills. She was a big R&B singer like in the early 90s. So when you have people that you recognize, the people you don't become like the background characters. It's almost like a movie. So I have my main characters and people that help facilitate, you know, things in the collage that tell a story. So this piece is called Late Night Hype. It's about, you know, how men pursue it and look at women and just that whole dynamic between men and women and what happens late night, you know. So it's like her and the moon, and it's like all these different narratives you can kind of pull out the collage, and you can read them however you read them. But I do have intention when I make them to tell a narrative, and from there, it doesn't belong to me anymore once it goes out into the world. But I'm just gonna show you a few more collages. Like this was called Friendly Fire.
I like that.
And in 2017, I did a show with the Station Museum, but I also asked them if they had a budget for me to make an album. So what I've been doing for the last 4 years is getting with the institution. If I'm inside the show, I ask, hey, can I make a record that gives like the audio version of the actual work inside the museum? So I call them like audio collages. I usually work with artists inside the show that make music as well. And then I get like mainstream artists as well to be part of the records. And this one, it's called Friendly Fire because that's what they named the show, but they gave me like freedom to talk about what friendly fire meant to me. And so I use that example to talk about police brutality. And I took that military term of friendly fire when somebody is killed on accident inside of your own kind of squadron to talk about the police, how they're supposed to protect the servers. But, you know, the police started looking like military, you know, they start wearing riot gear. They got face masks on, like it's not at all approachable or personable, you know? And so I have artists on this record. I have this Forrest Prince, who just passed away. He was like in his maybe late 80s. He's a Houston icon. I have Noah Emerson and Lovey Olivia and all these artists here that are making really dynamic work, but sometimes people didn't know they made music. So this record is meant to be like played at 2 a.m. in the morning. You know, it's kind of that record you can be making work with, or you can be writing a paper, or you can kind of jump in and out of it. And yeah, I mean, so that's not only when I make the albums, I make the covers, I kind of design out the album, and this has a full color catalog of the whole show. It comes with a limited edition print and like stickers and all that kind of cool stuff, man. But I'm just trying to like take my practice outside of the box, inside of the cube of a museum. Like how can we interact with people that we want to engage outside of just what we do? As you know, sometimes the art world is very insular. You see the same people, you know, we become a family, which is great. But then I also want to make sure we're bringing new people to art. And so I'm trying to find different avenues to reach them and bring them in into what we're doing and understand the art world culture. That's another one. This is more recent. I made this one this year. It calls Everybody Loves the Sunshine, and it deals with this topic of, he's from Roy Ayers, who's a really great jazz musician. He plays like the xylophone, you know, and this song is about what we all go through, like, you know, just people being on your team and with you when things are great. But like, you know, you gotta look around and see who's really there when things aren't so great. And, you know, it's a very didactic, straightforward kind of collage. But, you know, as you see, I have Elvis in the top right. You know, I always try to put Elvis in all my collages. he represents the idea of like death of Black culture without giving back real residual, not only money, but credit for work that other people have done. So, Elvis took a lot of songs and made them famous that other artists had made, and he didn't give them any kind of residual money or any kind of credit. And one of those artists, her name is Big Mama Thornton, and she's actually my wife's cousin. So
Really?
It's like her family. So, and
Wow.
Big Mama Thornton wrote Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog, and that became one of Elvis' biggest hits. And, of course, her credit for that is not really known, and nor did he let people know that she wrote that. So,
wow.
The word kind of deals with things like that, so it like I say, it pulls from the past, the present, and the future. I don't know if you guys know Teddy Pendergrass and Isaac Hayes, and Bobby Brown in there, Barbara Streisand. It's all kind of people that help tell his narrative. This is one of the pieces I made for George Floyd. It's called All Mothers Were Summoned When He Called Out for His Mama. And I didn't actually put George Floyd in the collage, but I wanted to build a narrative around the women to me who in my life who are like mother figures. So, Patti LaBelle was a big mother figure for me. I never knew her, but I grew up in a show called Different World. And on the show, she was like the most perfect mom. Like she would come to her son's dorm room and bring him hot apple pies, and he'll wake up and she cleaned the dorm room and had breakfast for him. Like she was a really, so some of these people I never knew personally, but I knew them through TV, and they really made an impact on my life of what I thought, a mother would look like. Not that I had a bad mother, but I used to always tease about these characters on TV, how I wish they were my mom sometimes. You have people like Diana Ross here. You got Tina Turner. You have Mahalia Jackson in the corner. You have the great Aretha Franklin. And so, so I kind of want this piece to kind of center around the women that loved and supported George Floyd, and like how they felt when he was taken away. And I made another one, of course, while I honor him too. He's more in the portrait, but this is about the people that we love and like how they feel after we're lost, I got more of these paintings, like What Rhymes with Gentrification, and then I have like places where I put the work that represent those things. This is the MLK building in the 3rd Ward. It's at one time, this is the first MLK, actually a community center in the nation. This is the first one. Wow. And it's basically has no funding. It needs to be supported, and these kind of works kind of talk to that kind of narrative, So that's why I placed it in front of this building. And I have done work with it to try to help, but it's just so much needs to be done. I also try to work to get my I guess my status high enough to really do these kind of important works in the neighborhood that take kind of they take some status and some networking and some commitment to help kind of reestablish. So that's part of why I'm doing certain things differently in my life, not just being an artist, but curating, and also work for the county. I'm the public art director for Harris County, because I think those relationships can help reestablish institutions like this. And so like I told you, I play chess, so I try to be very strategic with things I'm doing. And not just thinking about being an artist, but how I can really serve Houston and my community while I'm here. Because, I'm 41 now. When I turned 40, that really kind of clicked in my mind. I feel like a shift happened immediately. And I started thinking more zoomed out and in larger terms than just being a working, practicing artist, but how do we really make community? How do I really help artists stay here and be nurtured and be elevated? And we do that. I think we all want to stay here, and Houston can be a better art community.
So Robert, this piece that's in front of the MLK Junior Community Center, what is it made out of? Like, what did you? It looks like you layered some material.
It's all paper. It's all paper.
Oh, it's all paper, really? Oh, it looks like buffalo hide.
I know. I love that when you start adding paint to the paper, you can change the texture and the dynamic of the paper where you can't even tell what it is anymore. But yeah, it's all paper. It's sewed into it. So with these right here, I started laser cutting because the big ones were easy to hand cut, but the small ones started really messing with my hands because it was just so small to cut. So I decided to start laser cutting. And so also it just saved time. It's a little bit more expensive, but it leaves a real clean kind of cut into the paper.
Oh, I was wondering if those were cut or if they were collaged on top, but they do because they have that.
Yeah, only because the big one's not small, it's just too much to cut.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
here, this was hand cut, but this is huge. This is like 96 by something. It's a huge painting. So
Wow.
it's easy to cut by hand.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
this
No,
is
I
like
bet
my
it was
favorite.
hard.
Oh yeah, but it was fun. I mean, these once I get the paper layer, I do all of the paper stuff, cutting out and cutting through the layers is the fun part. And so this is my favorite Mexican proverb is they try to bury us, but they didn't know we were the seeds. And that's how I feel about my life. It's kind of like a self-portrait, you know. As much they dump on us, you know, I keep going, and things grew out of that stuff that looks like pain, that looks like misfortune, that looks like a loss. It's really not. It's lessons. And so I try to grow from all those things. And so this painting was kind of like that narrative to tell that. It's really a lot of paper, it's a lot of history, a lot of layers. And so you can see all the kind of layers coming through the text, and you kind of look at each word. It was really, really fun to make. And I'm making more of these for the new show. Like I said, once you get past the laborious part, like the lugging, the paper, it could be almost 200 something pounds. Because the paper starts getting really heavy.
Really?
And
Wow.
yeah, so I have to I have to tug it and pull it and like sew the top and then rotate it around. And so it's a lot of laborious working, but that makes me feel like I did a real job. Like I'm still attached to like the physical part of working. And so that kind of makes me feel, because I mean, sometimes, I'm gonna be honest with you, sometimes you feel like, man, I'm a grown human being. I'm making money, I'm making my living out of making paintings and making drawings and images. And though that's what I dream of doing, it still feels weird sometimes that that's what I do when I talk to other people and what they're going through. And I'm like, yeah, I made a painting. I was able to pay the mortgage, you know. So it's still some, you know, it's a weird dynamic to be in, to be an artist and still be dealing with people that are in the real world and, you know, how we have to move to survive and do things. And so
yeah,
that work is like a testament to that. So that kind of makes me feel normal at the end of the day, because I feel exhausted, you know, I'm tired. I feel like, man, I put in a day's work. And so I think that's what keeps me attracted to this kind of work. That's Stand Your Ground. So you just see the scale of the piece, how big it is. That's Dr. Charles Rowe. He writes these books about artists all over the country, artists of color. And so he came to check the show out, and somebody took a great photo of him.
that's great.
You know, this is some kind of jumping back and forth. This is like an older work. I made this in like 2009. This is something I made when I went to Nairobi. I went to Kenya on a residency, and the name of the show was Amnesia Therapy, I believe. And the show was basically about connecting African American artists from America with traditional African artists, and then seeing how we connected and how our stories kind of intertwine. And so this is when I first started sewing. I figured I was trying to figure out how to tell those stories and merge us together. And I thought about when you get cut, what happens when you get stitches and how your skin heals. And so that's how sewing became part of my practice over in Africa. And this piece called "We Are One" is pulled from an Erykah Badu song. Once again, it's a lot of things I found in Africa. A lot of like, you know, I see stamps and things I found on the street, and yeah, I just use those to kind of tell a story. And the image you see at top on the left and right, that's like a distorted image of slaves in the field working. And then the top image in the middle is like a diagram of a slave ship. And so I don't always like to stay in that narrative, but like I said, I like to use these painful images to kind of make them into almost like pop icon kind of symbolism, where you don't really know, might not know what they are, but they still feel beautiful on the artwork. And so that's my intention when I do stuff like that.
I'm gonna ask you 2 questions. I know one of which I know the answer to, but will you explain to them what a residency is? Because I believe possibly they may not know in this context.
Okay. After I tell you what it is, I'll let you guys know. I have a list of residencies all over the country that I can send you guys that you can apply for if you're interested. And so a residency is basically usually an out-of-town experience that you have at an institution. Like, for instance, I went to Joan Mitchell Foundation in New Orleans, and Joan Mitchell was this really great dynamic painter when she was alive, abstract. And because her career was so great, she was able to accumulate enough money to have a foundation to support artists after she died. And so that residency allowed me to be there for a month. No, I stayed there for 3 months. They provided me an apartment. I got a state-of-the-art studio. They had a chef for us that cooked 3 times a day. And you had a stipend. You had just so you can live and buy materials. And that's kind of what a residency usually, that's kind of top of the line. It's not always that fancy, but usually it's a place, they give you a studio, they give you a place to stay, and they give you money to make art. So you can really dive into your practice and, experiment and figure things out. And usually at the end of their residency, it comes with an exhibition. But in New Orleans, it wasn't an exhibition. You didn't have to do anything if you didn't want to. So though I made art in New Orleans, I really went and met musicians. I went to jazz bars every night and clubs, and I met all the musicians because I was working on an album. And I was able to translate those people I met into an album I was doing at the time. And so that's what I use my residency for. So you don't always have to, make work. Some people just read and study the whole time, but I do like to jump in and usually make a large body of work because I got that time to focus. I don't have to worry about real life things, My food is taken care of. I know where I'm living. I got a studio and I got supplies. I mean, you can't get any better as an artist. So I do encourage you to apply for residencies. They have them all over the country. I got a list of them. So if you are single and you don't have any kids and you want to travel the world and see the world on somebody else's dime, I think a lot of young artists, when they graduate, they do residencies for like 5 years. They travel all over the country, all over the world, and then they finally decide where they want to kind of settle down at. So there's another option that you can have as an artist.
So, so most of the majority of the people in this class are not art majors. Like we have I think that yeah, like I think that they're health professions.
Got you. I thought you all are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Business.
Is anybody here not be artists? Or are you guys just taking this class because it's part of I'm just curious about who really is want to be in the creative fields or who just taking the class.
I'm not an artist, but I love art. I have a huge art collection. I'm actually going to a art auction next weekend for the entire weekend.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where is that at? Is that here in town or is
At
that
the Fremont in Galveston through Park West Gallery.
Nice.
We're doing the entire weekend there. As my husband and I love collecting art. We have a bit of a problem when it comes to art because we have so much.
Awesome. Well, that's good news. We need you. The collector and the artist should definitely be happening. We're good. Okay. This is some more work from the Station Museum. These are 2 paintings I made in the sculpture. So like I said, I made different types of work. It's nothing I'm really loyal to. I'm just about, telling the story. So the painting on the left is acrylic, it's fabric, it's silk screen, it's a transparency on top, and it's sewn into also spray paint. And same on the right. And the one on the left is called We Don't Need No Water. And the one on the right is, the one on the left is called We Don't Need No Water. And the one on the right is called Let That Motherfucker Burn.
Did you make the one on the right last week? I'm kidding.
I know, right? I know. What's crazy about the kind of work I make is crazy, but it's also kind of sad that it's always pretty relevant. We've been dealing with this issue of injustice and unfair treatment of different sectors of people forever in America. And I don't understand why we're still dealing with this, but we still are. And so hopefully, we got new generations coming in, man, and they think differently. And I think things are shifting. I feel it. So I'm pretty confident in the future that, we won't be having the same, my daughter won't be having the same discussions with her daughter or her son when the time comes.
I hope so.
This piece on the left right here is called Auditorium. It was taken from a Mos Def song where he talks about, basically for me, I'm telling you what the piece is about. It's about culture that people of color leave behind and how it's just taken by other sectors of the world and they cherish it. For instance, like how blues was just abandoned. It was really popular, and then we moved on to jazz, and then blues is left there, and then it was highlighted and celebrated by other cultures, but we don't anymore. I barely meet any blues musicians, though we have them. It's not a lot. And then I think about what's happening with jazz, how it's in this weird space of not being really popular anymore. But so many of my friends are jazz musicians, and I feel like that culture is not really celebrated and supported like it should because all the energy is on hip hop. But now I feel like even hip hop is shifting where it's becoming something new. And I feel like something new is about to be born. I just don't know what it is yet. Because hip hop, the same thing is being abandoned, is being hijacked, and it's turned into something that wasn't the original intention, which is not always a bad thing, but you know, it can be. So that piece is like I found those elephants on the side of the road as well. I just repurposed them to a drum that I found as well, and then an old speaker, and then a piece of a horn I found. So all that pretty much is found objects except for the feathers. And I got those from the Mardi Gras Indians in New Orleans. So I went and made so the Mardi Gras Indians are like this big group of like black men, and like, I don't even see with all the feathers. They had these beautiful feathers in New Orleans. They're usually part of the parades, and they all have their own little sections of Indians. So they got different chiefs around the city. And the most popular is a Zulu chief. And that's where I got those feathers from. So they were pretty expensive. I think he charged me like, I don't know, like $50 a feather or something. But they're not cheap. And so I made that piece, and that's like the only piece I really made in New Orleans during my residency. But I made a lot of music. So
excuse
that's
me?
what that is. Yeah, go ahead.
So you said that hip hop is going a different way and it's being hijacked. Could you explain more about that?
Well, you know, I'm a student of hip hop, so I know my history from Sugar Hill Gang all the way up to NWA, and that's when the shift started happening in hip hop. Because
like
it was a time when hip hop was that's when the hip hop started. That's when it started transitioning. So before like NWA and Ghetto Boys, it really wasn't any gangster music. It was more about community. It was more about translating information, and it was about having a good time. Like nobody was a gangster. Everybody was like just really dancing, enjoying culture. And then NWA made this shift, and that shift came. You know, man, it's such a stacked answer. But you know, when drugs happen in the community, that changed the dynamic of how people interacted. And then you have this gangster lifestyle that comes from people being killed over drug sales. And so now you're glamorizing that, and then boom, NWA blows up worldwide because the energy is in the neighborhoods now. People are no longer dancing. It's not the same kind of culture. And then gangster music takes over for a long period of time. There's a time where everything was gangster. Like everybody was a gangster. That's impossible. You know,
it's impossible.
There's no way that everybody that's rapping is gangster now. But why that happens is because that's selling records. And so these labels that put out music, they decide what music they're going to put out to the public. So they don't want to gamble on positive music. NWA sold 4 million records. They want to sell 4 million records, so they find them an NWA in that city. So boom, you got Ghetto Boys. You got NWA basically in New York. You got NWA from LA. You got Ghetto Boys in Houston. So every major label is scrambling to find an NWA. So the next thing you know, the whole industry is gangster music. So now we're shifting to. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just saying, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, yeah. So now we have where, the party culture where Lil Wayne comes out of that, but Lil Wayne starts shifting the culture because, he has all the tattoos, the face tats, the colored hair. And then from Lil Wayne, you got a whole nother generation of rappers that were kind of like, he's like the grandfather of like the Lil Uzi Verts and the Lil Yachty's and everybody that's popping right now. Their ancestry line is from Lil Wayne. And so that's what I'm saying, like it's a shift. Like it's always somebody that's really, really pivotal in the culture who kind of like sets the tone and everybody else kind of falls in line because labels want to match that energy and that money. So everybody looks for it now, they look for a Lil Wayne. And boom, that's how you have these things happen. So it's all based around money and based around people who are inside the hip hop culture who don't care about it. I mean, most of the CEOs and the guys that own labels, their kids don't listen to hip hop. They don't live in the urban community and they don't even allow their kids to listen to it. When I hear most interviews, they're like, no, my kids can't listen to hip hop. Yet they sell it and they're okay with our kids listening to it. And I love hip hop and say, I'm a product of it, but I understand the contradictions of it and why it can be hurtful and why it's not always a great thing, especially when you lead it with money and not leading with culture. So, but that's the American way. We are living in a capitalistic society where, when something makes money, everybody wants to duplicate that, regardless of the consequence. And the consequence don't affect your kids or your neighborhood. I mean, really, why would you care? that's the way they see it. So I know we got off topic, but it really hasn't, because it all kind of feeds into my work. And I think about things like that when I'm making the work. And that's why I kind of honor ancestors and legacy. I honor the past so people can know who they are, and they can know how they can assist in this country. And then that leads us towards our future. So like this piece here, this Rumble Young Man Rumble, it's called George, John, and the Cosmic Pineapple. Because when I was making this piece, it was just funny to me that it turned out looking like a pineapple. So I just kind of played with that title, and so I kind of made it look more like a pineapple. And at that top, you see George Clinton again. I'm using that reference as the future. And then it's honoring John Henry, who he died because he went against a machine that they created. So basically, at a certain point of time, they worked on railroads, and John Henry was like the best of the best. He was really fast and efficient, and they built they made a machine that can pretty much rival that, and then it was going to replace the workers. So John Henry went against his machine, and he beat it by like one peg, hammering down the railroad, and he died, right after that, like instantly he died over exhaustion. I think his heart, stops, but he beat the machine. And so it's like this urban legend of John Henry. And so that's what that piece is about. And I tied in the Rumble Young Man Rumble with, Muhammad Ali. So it's always like pop culture reference I pull in and out of pieces. And this is a reclaimed canvas. Found little chunks of canvas everywhere and put them together. And some things I silk screen on paper and fabric, and I sewed into the canvas. And so you see stereo there at the bottom. It's always kind of there lingering somewhere as well. Another piece I made in Pittsburgh, I was thinking about Marilyn Monroe and that Warhol painting, but instead I used Nefertiti. Instead I played with, different colors, and I want to repeat the pattern. And so this is called Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. And it's based about, knowing who you are and, your past. And like I said, where you come from, when you have an idea of your history and your legacy, it kind of, I think, translates to your self-confidence and how you carry yourself in the world. These pieces here are the installation I did at Lawndale in 2019. So I recreated a blues club. That's what I'm talking about, because I knew the value of blues. I knew it was kind of dying out. So I did an installation about the blues clubs in 3rd Ward and 5th Ward of Houston, Texas, like in the early 90s. So I was able to get my hands on this old footage of all these old performers, all these old interviews nobody's ever seen. And I used that video in my research to create my idea of what a blues club would look like. And I activated it with real life blues musicians, and it became like a concert venue inside of the museum. And so that's pretty much what that is. Kind of what it looks like on a pan back view. You can see the space carved in. They would come and perform at that mic back there, and the crowd would just kind of stand up. We would have seating, and people would just enjoy the programming. So I had 4 or 5 different jazz musicians. And then this painting right here, that red and yellow one, that's Lightning Hopkins. He's a world famous blues musician from 3rd Ward. He has over maybe 40 albums. His discography is really amazing. And he chose to stay and work at 3rd Ward. And in 2018, he got a Lifetime Achievement Grammy Award. That went to his family. So yeah, I got the notice, no soliciting, which was usually outside a blues club. That's all made of reclaimed posters. I had a video showing this Lightning Hopkins documentary. And I think in this case, I had the book of Down Home Blues. And I think Roger, I forgot his last name. He's very important to the culture, but Roger wrote this book about blues and all the blues musicians that came out of Houston. And so once again, I'm highlighting, legacy, the past, and the music is the cornerstone of almost everything I do. So this is the piece I made in San Antonio. I had an art pace residency in 2017, where I also made an album called Between the Devil and the Deep. And this painting, that show dealt with the idea of the soul. Like, can you sell it? Is it a real thing? They say that when you die, like your body, it's like 2-point-something grams. It gets, it's less in weight because it's the idea that you have a soul and left the body. And so I made all these paintings. I did all this research about, is the soul real? And so this painting is about religion and how it can be a divider of people. And instead of always bringing people together, it kind of separates us. So that's what the red neon light down the middle is. And it's made of like record sleeves, it's oil stick, spray paint. And I believe it's 72 by 72. Oh, and then like the word screen on it, it's like it's the famous Lord's Prayer, you know, now let me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. And the word take repeats like the record skips. So it's like take. And that's why that word keeps repeating towards the end of the painting.
You said it's a record?
Yeah. Those are record sleeves. But in my head, the painting was like,
okay.
Played on a record, you know.
So what was your inspiration to make that painting? What like drove you?
Because I was really dealing with the idea of a soul and can't even sell it. And I started like really.
What did you learn about that?
I learned that we do have souls and they are for sale in different ways. Maybe not like, you know, maybe
like what you contribute your energy to?
Say it again.
Like what you contribute your energy to?
Yeah, and what you do to maybe what you might do to make money, like what you sacrifice to be successful. So you know, the most famous story about that is Robert Johnson. It was a guy that he was like in the 1930s. He's the first pop star. Apparently, he went to the crossroads of Mississippi and sold his soul to the devil, and he came. So this narrative came about because a lot of people had met him like 3 months before, and he was a terrible singer and a terrible guitar player. He went to the crossroads. He came back, and he was an amazing guitar player. He had an amazing voice out of nowhere. And so this whole legend of Robert Johnson came bigger than life. So like all the groups that you love, like Rolling Stones and all those old rock groups, they all worship Robert Johnson. That was the first voice they heard like that, and the way he played the guitar. So when I went to San Antonio, I found a hotel he recorded a record in. And I went to that same room and I re-recorded a new album based off that first album he made in 1936. So like 80 years to the date, I made a new record, and it was all R&B, soul, hip hop, and country. And so we made a new album in 1 week. I rented out the hotel room, and you know, I was making artist sandwiches, and I was like the chef. I was like cooking and stuff, and they were all making music. And so I made an album off the show as well, and it comes out in about 3 months. It's going to debut in San Antonio Art Pace. It's called Between the Devil and the Deep. And I will share with you guys a video when we have time. I made 4 videos for the album, and it's already ready to go. It's just being pressed up now. So I made it album 2 years ago, but it's just now coming out because this is how I've just been really busy. That's how long it takes to make quality music. You kind of doing it by yourself. Because I become the executive producer, the producer, you know, I do the videos with directors. We got to edit them. You know, we got to pay for everything. And I was doing that really out of my own pocket. So I got support now, but when I started the project, I was like, it was coming out of my own money. So, and I can tell you that making albums is very expensive. You know, my first album I made cost me $35,000 out of my own pocket of selling paintings and then using that money to put it to making the album. So it's not really a cheap thing to do either. This painting I call it a wall sculpture. And this is one of the works I made at David Shelton Gallery in 2019. And it's called Promise You Will Sing About Me. And the show itself is called A Low End Theory. And I pulled that from a Tribe Called Quest. And these paintings was really a study and experimentation to the color black and paintings and making a whole bunch of black paintings. Some of my favorite artists in the they got a book out here called Black Paintings, and it has Robert Rauschenberg and Frank Stella and all these heavyweights. And for a short period of time, they all made black paintings. They all like kind of pushed the color black and experimented with it. And so I took that concept with this show and made these works. So you have like this idea of an altar. You have these books that are important to my I think my development as an artist and a person. So I feel like, how do I honor those books? I just put them into a painting where they can live forever. You have the fabric representing like, you know, representing forward movement, and they're tied together, representing like connection of people, knowing that we interconnected and with each other, we can move things forward. I had a ship on top, you know, of course, again, representing like the traveling Africans did to get to America. And the world tour came from the Tribe Called Quest song, that's really called a ward tour. It's an AWARD tour. When I was a kid, I thought it was saying ward tour. So I just kept that same idea as a kid and just wrote that out on the globe. And so that, that worked also when you see the stereo at the bottom, but it's kind of like in a glossy black where it's kind of, it's pronounced, but it's kind of hidden, it's not as loud. And so once again, it's like a study of the color black and dealing with texture and layering. And that one is like 72 by 92. That's a pan shot of the piece in the exhibition. Sorry, I'm just jumping this stuff. That's that sculpture I showed you earlier that I made in New Orleans. And what's on back of this is like how they marked the houses after Hurricane Katrina. It'll tell you like if anybody died on the day they went in. I forget all the specifics, man. It was like, so nobody died because there would be like a number of bodies. So it's like, it's like every house has it so you can know how many people died in the house, what day they went in. So it's the way they communicate with each other on what was happening in the abandoned houses in New Orleans. So I just thought that would be great to put on back of this drum. Then you have the front side. It's like, what it is, we know what it is. They know y'all. They know y'all know what it is. You don't know, here it is. What does that mean? Mos Def was talking about, like I said, the culture of like, we don't even know what we own. We don't know how powerful it is, but other people know. So when we let it go, it's like trash becoming treasure. When you don't value what you have, other people do. That tends to what happens. So he was talking about the culture of music that was stolen, and so, and that's like another live version of it. And we have here one of my favorites called Black Boy Fly, and it's really about taking chances and jumping off of cliffs and doing different things. It's not really about fashion. It's just a straightforward also statement, but it's more about color and composition and more about texture than anything.
Hey, Robert.
Yes.
It's 12:47.
Yeah,
So it's like if you want to talk or have people ask questions right now.
Let's ask a question. I'm sorry. I know it went so quick. I'm sorry.
I know it went by really quick, and I hadn't seen your work in a long time, and I'm so happy to see it. It looks great.
Anybody got any questions? Anything they want to know about the art world? Anything? We can talk about anything you guys want. It don't have to be specifically about the work, but I mean, if it is, it's fine. But I mean, let's talk. We got like 10 minutes. I think we should.
So, if you were a musician, how would you avoid all the negativity of the music world?
Well, I am a musician. I'm doing a new record right now with, and I'm honoring DJ Screw. I'm doing that with the Contemporary Arts Museum. And I have all the people you might know. I have Zero on it, and Scarface, and Devin and Dude. And the thing is, like, how do you change the narrative by still being inside of the infrastructure, but making music slightly different? And you gotta know how to be part of the machine, but pull people out of it. It can't be really dramatic. It has to be subtle. And so I just try to find those subtle things to do to make it different. And like just choosing the topic of the song and how you address things. Like, I don't mind you talking about violence, but how do you talk about it? Is it sophisticated? Like Kendrick Lamar taps into all the things we love about hip hop, but he does it in a way that has integrity and it feels layered and it feels valuable. So I think you just got to find a way to still talk about the things you want to, but music's supposed to be like poetry. And at some point we lost that. This is a real vulgar songs that are straightforward. They don't leave room to imagination. I still believe in like quality songs. So I think that's the difference. I'm a big Quincy Jones fan. I was old enough to grow up when people made songs that could last a lifetime. Like some of the songs I like, you might like because they cross generational barriers. I think we just make work for your generation. And you don't consider the whole world. That's the problem.
So I have a question. Well, I should let students ask questions first, if anybody is going to. But like, so Robert, like during this year of the pandemic, did any of it change anything about your work or the way you make work?
Yeah, I got COVID. I got COVID in June.
You
So
did?
I actually got it and I almost died. So yeah, it changed everything because it was certain projects I was gonna put on hold. I was like, man, 2020 is trash year. I'm just gonna like just wait to 2021 and like put these projects out. But after I recovered from being sick, I decided to start. I went full force into like overworking. I just like started finishing my projects and getting them out, and I put things out in the pandemic that I was gonna wait till it was over, but I realized that I can't wait because we're not guaranteed life.
Right.
So,
yeah. How long?
I always knew that. I said like I didn't know that, but once you really get sick, like I got real sick with COVID, and I went down real fast, and I'm relatively healthy. So I knew that it affects everybody's body differently. But like I said, when I recovered, I said, okay, I'm gonna go 100% every day. And I was already doing that, but I mean, I went even harder. So now that's why I have so many projects because I said, man, I don't know when I'm gonna be here. So I mean, right now, I have a show, I have a film at the station. I have a show I'm in the work at the CAM. I'm in the Bradford Museum. I'm at Project Row House,
You're like
and I curated the space downtown. And I'm in David Shelton Gallery making work right now. So that's the way I took life after I recovered from COVID. Like I'm doing everything. I'm going hard.
Yeah.
And so that's how it changed. I mean, I'm just really maximizing my life every day to the fullest. And
back when they like in the late 50s, and this is what they were calling it then, and it's like not very correct, but back when the Asian flu was around, I got it and I nearly died and I went into a semi-coma.
Oh, wow.
And that year, my mom, like, she had a baby book for me. I was 3. And, she would write in our baby book at Christmas and stuff. And that year she started writing in mine and she was crying so much, she scratched everything out because she thought I was going to die. And I remember, I know this is off topic, but I remember, so they took me to some doctor's office and I was unconscious when they took me. And I literally felt, I left my body and I watched the doctor. I was up at the ceiling watching the doctor give me an injection.
Wow.
And I went back into my body. Yeah, I think that kind of like, I think it's like that obviously like affected my whole outlook for the rest of my life because of that.
I mean, stories like that I heard and stuff I experienced let me know, like I said, that when somebody asked me a question about the soul, I mean, after I started this research, certain things happening, they confirmed that there is a soul. Like you said, stories like that where, like some of those experiences that we have, they're very personal that everybody don't believe it or understand it. So it was something very specific that happened to you for a reason, so you can know that.
Yeah.
And that's also life too. What I'm saying we're dealing with a lot of different things that are happening outside of our physical beings here on this earth, and so I do believe that for some things I experienced, and then stories people who I trust have told me that I believe them. Yeah, that's just like you're now. That might be unbelievable to somebody, but I definitely believe that's true, and that can happen. You can have an out of body experience and come back in.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not on topic, but it is. Like I said, all these things kind of exist in my work. So.
That's great. And like, how long were you sick?
About 4 weeks in total. But the first week was the week I thought I might die because.
Oh my God.
It was hallucinations. I was having high sweats. I would wake up literally, and so they put me in the back of the house. I was like, quarantined off. But I would wake up full of sweat, full of wet, ice cold, shivering. I started hallucinating. I didn't have any kind of appetite, and so I think what kept me kind of not going to the hospital was I started doing yoga exercises for my lungs.
Oh, good.
I would go outside and I would like try to walk a block, and then maybe like the next 2 days I could walk maybe 2 blocks. And so because I kept my lungs moving, I think that really helped me because the COVID travels from the nose down to the lungs.
Yeah,
that's how people get pneumonia. That's how they die, the lung failure.
Yeah, and if you're laying in bed all the time, then that, your lungs will fill up with
And that's all you
fluid.
want to do is lay in the bed. So it was so hard to get up because that's all you want to do is lay in the bed. That's all you want to do, but you can't. You know,
Yeah.
you have to get up. You got to do things. So
Man, well,
I knew COVID was real, but like I said, it's just like dealing with the idea is there. So you don't know it's real until you get it. And I gotta say, oh wow, I've never felt anything like this. I knew I had it immediately because I never felt that way before.
yeah, yeah. Oh, gee. Well, I'm glad. I'm happy you recovered, and I'm glad you came and talked to our class, and let's give Robert a big hand, and thank you so very much.
Yeah, no problem. That's fine.
Yay, thank
You
you.
guys got Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. You guys have social media. So maybe if you're interested, you can come out to some of these shows that are happening. But my Instagram is just my name. It's Robert Leroy Hodge, and you can find me. And you know, from there, you know, you can follow the shows. If you want to send me a message, I can send you passes to shows. Just let me know.
One question.
Yes.
Can you write that on the chat so we can also know about the events? Do you do art events also?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I have a show coming up, and I'm working on it now. Where's the chat?
Oh, like if you go down to the bottom of the screen, or else the other thing you could do is you could email
Let me get out of
me.
this right quick.
Yeah, you could email me this, and then I'll
Oh, I see it.
I'll
I'm sorry.
post
I
it for
had
you.
my screen up. That's why I couldn't see it. I see it.
Oh,
now.
okay.
All right. All right. Get my email.
Let me see if I'm also gonna check to see if I heard from Julie too.
I left out the app. You guys get it at Gmail. It's hodgestudios@gmail.com. Website. All righty.
Also, I had an off-topic question.
Yes.
You had mentioned that the exhibit was at the old Forever 21 building. Is it the one down Green Street downtown?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see
We
that.
open it there at 12 to 5. No, tonight this is the last weekend, so it's a DJ coming in, and it's a film being shown. I think like at 5 o'clock tonight, this evening. So the building will be open to 1 a.m. So it'll be. I don't know if you guys know DJ Mr. Rogers. He DJs on 93.7. He's DJing tonight. So we try to keep music and entertainment, you know, but the focus is really the art. But you know, we build things around programming around the artwork. But yeah, come check it out. It's over 100 works of some of the best Houston artists. I only have one artist from New York. His name is Philandus Thames. I met him at Yale, but he's really great. He just has a neon sign in the show, and yeah. So
Did you say Noah is in that show?
Noah Emerson was in the Friendly Fire show.
One day, let me tell you a bunch of stories about him.
I bet. Do you know Tim Glover?
Yeah,
Tim Glover's in the show. He has 2 large sculptures.
Yeah, like I've known all those people like for maybe like 3 decades.
Yeah. And we can get you in part 4.
Cool, awesome. Well, thank you again very much. And let me see if Julie's here yet. That'd be cool if y'all were both here at the same time. Well, hopefully she'll be here in a minute.
Okay.
And thank you, and I hope your family's well, and
everybody's well.
And I can't wait to see you in person.
I know. 2022.
2022, we can give each other hugs.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Nice meeting y'all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right.
So everybody, I'm gonna give you like 5 minutes to have a restroom break, and I'm gonna give Julie a call just to make sure that she's not having any issues or anything. Wait, there she is. She's connecting, but still take a 5-minute break.
Hello.
Hey, Julie, how are you?
How are you doing?
Good. You got your pipes fixed, I saw.
Yes, finally. It took a couple days, but my neighbor is a plumber, so I know where he lives. So I just annoyed him.
Hey, man, I've talked to so many people whose neighbor is a plumber. Like, I
It's a
wish,
good job in Houston.
I know. I wish I was a plumber. I'm gonna make you a co-host, and then
Okay.
I've just because Robert just finished, so I'm gonna give everybody like a 5-minute break,
No problem.
and that you could set up and everything. That'd be
Okay.
cool.
So this is an online synchronous class?
Yes, and it's usually there's more people than this. Like it's a small class, but
Yeah.
I don't know if people are still having issues or
Yeah.
what, but we're like about 4 or 5 people are missing.
Yeah, my classes were pretty small this week as well.
Were
so.
they? Yeah. I mean, I've heard from students that were without water, or like one student had COVID, another person's grandmother was in the hospital. It's just it's already such a rough semester for everybody.
Yeah.
I kind of wish you already knew this, but I kind of wish we would have waited like at least another half a week before we started back again, because nobody had a chance to take a breath.
Yeah. And it felt so wrong to like,
didn't it? Yeah.
Like actually, I was supposed to go back in person because I'm teaching 2 in-person classes.
Yeah.
And right before the storm, I also got tested positive for COVID.
Oh no.
But I had no symptoms. I only tested it because I had to take my uncle to get his vaccine, and I had to, in order to take him out of the home because he's in assisted living, I had to show a negative test.
Oh man.
And then it came back positive. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going back. Like, well, I wasn't even allowed to anyway, but it ended up working out for the better because I wasn't ready to physically go back.
Yeah. Did anybody else in your family get sick? Oh, good.
I mean, Sebastian just tested negative, Louise just tested negative, and I tested negative a couple days ago.
Oh, good. So maybe
Yeah.
it could have even been like a false positive or something.
I don't know. I have no idea, but yeah.
Yuck. I got my first vaccine on Monday.
Yay.
Tuesday, yeah. And then when I was standing in line, I just got like choked up and I started crying just because I guess like all the tension and anxiety from the past year, you don't realize how much you're holding in your body. So I go back in about 2.5 more weeks and get the second one. Yay.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I actually think I did have it because they contacted me and they were like, well, did you feel like you had some allergies? And I was like, you know what? I did have some allergy symptoms, but it wasn't even bad enough to take an allergy pill or anything. So when they started naming the symptoms, even though they were super subtle, I was like, maybe, yeah, I probably did. But it has been such a kind of like total, like I was having bad anxiety, and now thinking that I had it, I'm just so much more relaxed.
Oh my gosh. Did you have like slight cold sweats or cold chills?
I never had a fever. I had tiny bit of nasal drip and a headache one day or two, and that was it.
That sounds like after I got the injection, that's what I had. I got a headache for a couple of days and then nasal drip. Yeah. Okay, well, it looks like almost everybody's back. So if you want to start in anytime.
Okay.
And her name is Julie and not Sebastian.
Oh, let me change my name.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I can do that.
Just in case they were confused.
That's my husband's name. I always forget because he uses Zoom more. And I was just remembering the last time I did the studio visit or did this class talk with you. It was like when the pandemic first started, remember? And I didn't even know how to do a Zoom presentation. I was like, oh my God, now we're all experts.
Yeah. I know I'm still making mistakes on it, but I'm better than I was. So
We're
I'm
being
sick of it
patient,
though.
That's what matters.
Yeah.
Patience with each other. So okay, so I'll just share the screen then since I'm the presenter. And I'll go back to here. Okay. All right. So hello everyone. Thank y'all for having me. I wanted to talk a little bit about, so usually when I talk about my work, it's more about like the story of like how I got to where I am and what happened in my life. And what led me to where I am right now. So I'll just give y'all a little bit of background information about me before I start. I was pretty much, I was born and raised in Houston, on the north side near Greens Point, and in the 80s. And so, you know, I went away for art school in Chicago and couldn't handle the cold, as y'all have seen. That's like how it is for like months and months. So I came back and started teaching and working and painting here in town. I'll show you a couple images that are kind of like really formative, that kind of tell you where I came from. So one of the most important things, and I don't know how many of y'all like are interested in majoring in art or like becoming artists or making art throughout your life. Anybody? You have any art majors in the class?
I think there might be one, but they're not here today. But
oh, that's okay.
Sarah, you collect art, right?
I do, yes. I'm a huge, my husband and I collect a lot of art. And then I have a really good friend who is a artist in New Orleans that does body painting.
Oh, cool. So you're already interested. That's good. One of the things that was really formative for me was that in high school, my art teacher, she wasn't the best art teacher, but one thing she definitely did that was good was she made us keep a sketchbook. And every week we had to turn it in, and she didn't give us assignments in it. She just kept it open. So that openness was good because you're kind of like staring at this blank page, wondering what do I do? And you have to solve that problem for yourself. I think one of the problems with art classes in general is you end up doing what the teacher thinks is cool, and you never find out what you think is cool, you know? And that's true for writing and for music and any of those kind of like areas where even science, you're doing experiments that the teacher wants you to do instead of, you know, going in areas that you're interested in. So I started doing a lot of collages in the sketchbooks. And so every week I would just build up collage from like photographs. This is before anybody had digital cameras. So I had a lot of prints. And so I've just create a bunch of collages with old books and prints and just other printed material that I had around. And I think that was good base for me, because the great thing about collage is you can like arrange things and play around and get really good at, you know, creating compositions, which is like, what works? Does this work up here? Does this work down here? You know, it's just like a cook experimenting with spices. It's a quick, easy way to learn how to make more interesting pictures. And it also started becoming like autobiographical. So it was like pictures from my life that I started putting in there and sort of like collecting. So it's like a diary, a visual diary, which is just an awesome thing for everybody to do, I think, to just help you like kind of document your life, process your life. And then after high school, after I went to art school in Chicago, I came back and got married. We've almost been married, I think, like 16 years. Me and my husband, who's a photographer, and we went on a honeymoon to, I haven't shown you this one, Beth, but we went to the Grand Canyon. It was like a 3-week road trip.
Wow.
We drove from Houston to San Francisco, and because he's from Haiti, he had never seen a lot of parts, like big parts of the country. So we drove to the Grand Canyon. I thought it was going to be amazing. Like, I was so excited. And this is, again, just an example of a formative moment for me as an artist. So I was super excited because you see pictures of the Grand Canyon, you're like, oh, it's going to be gorgeous. And I went there and it was horrific. Okay.
Was it?
How many of y'all have ever been? It was horrifying. It's a hole.
3 times.
You've been a few times?
Yeah. Each time was not that great.
Yeah.
When we went, my child got like sick, and it was just not great.
It was definitely beautiful. I'm not saying it wasn't, but the realities of it were too overwhelming for me. So I guess I knew what a canyon was. It's a hole, but standing on the edge, because I have a fear of heights, so I avoid mountains easy. Well, this is like a mountain that you don't climb up. You're just to take a step, and then next thing you know, you're on top of a mountain, and it's like, it was so scary. So I couldn't appreciate the beauty of it. I couldn't get anything from it because the realities of nature. So like there was signs everywhere. It's like bubonic plague is real. Don't feed the squirrels. Don't get too close to the edge. And I was like, man, I wonder how many people die here. And at the gift shop, they had a book about this thick, divided into chapters called Deaths at the Canyon. And each chapter was like a different way people die. It was like hiking. It was like in cars. It was just, so I feel there was something there, like the realities of nature. In other words, nature doesn't really care if you live or die. You know, nature is just going to nature. So yes, it is beautiful, but when you're just trying to survive, you can't really appreciate it. So a couple years later, fast forward, I ended up having a very traumatic event in my life. My father passed away from cancer, who I had been, I was his only caregiver. And so I didn't take it well at all. And I was super in a really dark place, very depressed. I couldn't taste food. I was losing a lot of weight. I was just really, really on, like, in the darkest place. And so my husband's family decided that we should go to Paris. It's just a way to cheer me up. And so they paid for us to go and to go look at art. He's like, you are an artist, you have to go to Paris. So we ended up seeing the Monet's water lilies, or nymphae. I can't say it in French, but it's a huge, it's like have you seen it, Beth, in person?
No. Wait, where is it? It's not at Versailles, is it? No, it's the Musée d'Orsay or something like that.
It's at l'Angérie.
Yeah,
it's like
no,
a special gallery that was just built for this.
Yeah, no, I didn't get to see it. I did go to Paris, but I didn't see it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's these huge oval rooms. So the painting is stretched along the wall. So it's like 360-degree view of Monet's little ponds that he had in his garden, and he painted it at different times of day, so it catches the light. So one of them is at night, so it's really dark, and one of them is, you know, at dusk, so it's kind of that purple magical color, and then one is like during the day, so it's nice and bright and intense. And we're sitting there in this comfortable, gorgeous room, and my husband leans over to me and he's like, yeah, art wins. And I think the idea was that, you know, thinking about the Grand Canyon and thinking about this experience, looking at Monet, it's not that the Grand Canyon was less beautiful. It's just that the beauty was conditional, right? Like, to all the things that were, all the outside environmental factors that were like so terrifying. But art, I realized in that moment, is a way to kind of like capture that beauty and keep it, and to where you have it when you need it, and you can look at it and you're comfortable and you're relaxed, and it's always there for you, right? There's no danger, there's no fear. It's just pure, saturated, unadulterated beauty that can be very healing because it's very safe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you know what? I'm just gonna interject. That
Go ahead.
reminds me of like the little I know about like Taoist art is that like a lot of, you know, like a lot of Tao has to do with man's relationship to nature. And so rather than going out and contemplating nature, people would do paintings of nature that you then meditate upon. So it's
Yes.
like the same, I mean, it's not, but it is the same sort of thing.
Right, because it's the saturated version of it. It's, how do I say, the concentrated version of it. The artist pulls out the most beautiful elements and gets rid of all the distracting elements. Like it's too hot, there's mosquitoes biting you. And that way you have a calm, quiet space and time to focus on the moving parts of nature. And that's what especially Taoist and Japanese, those traditional Japanese paintings are doing, is like, here, let me guide you towards the most intense, saturated, beautiful aspects of this without the realities. Because you see a beautiful bird in flight and you blink and it's gone, right?
Yeah.
But with art, it's like it's there forever. And so that whole trip kind of really like brought me out of my depression. It actually like changed everything, because the beauty that I experienced there in the art, it gave me hope again. It made me realize that like, well, that's why people like beautiful things, right? Because they make you hopeful. They make you feel like there is a reason for this. You know, as my favorite artist says, Linda Berry, art isn't a distraction from life, it's the solution to life. In other words, it shows you how to live life and how to deal with this like shit show that is life sometimes. It's the way to cope. And so that experience really, really helped. And then this is another like pivotal piece that I always talk about, because when I was in my darkest time and my dad had passed away, it was during 2008 when the economy crashed and nobody could find work. So we were unemployed, and we had just moved to a new city where we had no community, no friends. And people don't like making friends with people who are depressed, you know, and grieving. It's like, okay, and they step back, you know. It's just not it's a hard way to make friends when you're like going through some hard stuff. And so at that point, like I always tell this, is that my best friend was the 7-Eleven guy, and he didn't even know it. Like I would just go buy like 3 drinks a day, and that was my best friend. And it was just really sad. It was a sad place. And I had just had a baby too, so I was dealing with postpartum as well. And my husband, I don't know if y'all can tell what this picture is of. Do y'all notice, or can you kind of identify it, what it is?
Anybody?
It almost looks like concrete with little rocks on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically a sidewalk with little tiny, teeny tiny pebbles. And he had these up in his studio, my husband. These are photographs. And he had a whole bunch of them. And this totally put my whole experience in perspective, because at that moment, I saw myself in these tiny rocks. In other words, this is how small I felt at that moment. You know, when you are really depressed and you feel that no one loves you and no one cares and you're all alone and inconsequential, that was me. And I felt like as insignificant as this little rock. But the work helped me visualize that and vocalize that. Without seeing this, I wouldn't have had an image of how I was feeling in the world. But then oh, sorry, I accidentally There we go. Then I realized like, oh, okay, everybody feels like this. Everybody feels small. And then with the way the light was hitting it, it's like at sunset, right? So the light is making these tiny little pebbles like cast this long shadow. So they could be little mountains, they could be little monuments. And the way I looked at it was like, I still matter in the right light. I cast a long shadow, and people, are influenced by me, and people care about me, and basically I still matter. I'm small, but I'm also big in the right light. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it was like a super eye-opening kind of like aha moment of like, I really do think that art and music are similar. So when you go through a bad breakup, you have that breakup song that helped you, right? You go through you need all the music, because depending on your mood, you might listen to different types of music. And it's the same for art. You need all the art, because you might have looked at something 100 times, but you go through something and all of a sudden it clicks and it's so much more meaningful to you. But I think the difference is, and what art can give you that music can't, and not saying one is better, but they are different, is that music is almost too effective in the sense that once the song's over, it's kind of like the spell is broken. Do you know what I mean? Like you almost need to be listening to music the whole time. But when you see an image that really affects you, it's like it's seared into your memory and it changes how you look at the world. Like it never really leaves you. Have you had an experience like that, Beth?
Yeah. So there's this tree that Leonardo da Vinci drew. I can't remember what kind of tree it is, but that tree, I don't even know how to describe how it affected me, but that tree, like it seared into my brain. And maybe it even translated over into when I said, oh, now I can articulate it. Like when I started painting those tree paintings.
Yeah,
I
which
think
were that's how I noticed you. And I was like,
I think that tree made me think about trees differently, and that trees are sentient beings, they're not just this thing growing out of the ground, and that they, I don't know, I always feel like that they have feelings and purpose and all of this stuff. So it made me start thinking about them differently, but also paying attention to how they were made and how they grew and all those little details. So yes, I have had that experience.
Yeah, and I think it really does change the way you look at the world and the way you understand yourself and the world. And that's what art, I feel, can give you that music can't. Although music in some ways is more moving in terms of like how it touches you in the moment. It's different. It doesn't stick in the same way I think that images do.
Yeah, like sometimes with music, what sticks in the same way are horrible songs that you can't get out of your mind. Like, I wish I hadn't said that, because now I have Petticoat Junction in my head.
That's true. See, and that's the thing about music. It works too well. It almost leaves you no choice. But with art, you always have a choice. So I can make you look at this for an hour and you don't really see it. I can't force you to see it. I can force you to look at it, but that doesn't mean you connected with it or created any meaning out of it. And that's okay. You don't have to create meaning with every work of art you see, but it's almost like a conscious choice. You have to say, okay, I'm ready to really look at this and let it move me. So I think you have more autonomy with art. So everything that I do now came from that dark place I was in. And the art I was looking at the time, I realized was basically therapy for me. It was to pull me out of that dark place. And so I'm just going to show y'all a few of kind of like, I think integral pieces that help you understand who I am as an artist. So at my darkest place, when I was most lonely and the most sad, I found this piece by Alex Katz, one of my favorite painters. And it's just these two old white dudes chilling on a porch, smoking cigarettes together. But it just made me so happy. Like, I can't relate to that in terms of like seeing myself in there, but I did though. Like, dappled light is my jam. Like, if I'm under a tree and there's like dappled light, I'm happy. Like, I'm the happiest I could ever be. So the sunlight, and just, I wanted to be with a friend. Like, I just wanted to be chilling with a friend. I would have given anything for that at that time. And so to see these two guys just chilling, smoking cigarettes, sitting in the sun, it was like, it made me realize that, like that, it reminded me of that feeling of being with a friend, and it made me realize that that feeling will come again. I will have that experience again, and you need to keep on living so you can have it again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so and I also saw a John Singer Sargent show here in Houston, a watercolor show. It was just so beautiful. And the way he paints light, and again, I'm a sucker for light, for sunlight. The content, I can't relate. It's all like old European, like, or like
white people,
bourgeois American, like rich, but it doesn't matter. I can still connect with it, and it still makes me feel like how it would feel to be in the sunlight, just chilling and just enjoying a beautiful day, And this is another one by Alex Katz. And this is the first one where I was really not just moved by the subject, in other words, what was being shown, but like the form, or how the image was painted. So I really became obsessed with like looking at these windows, these night paintings, where it was just like each window was one brushstroke. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And each branch was so unfussy. It was just like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It looked like, Bruce Lee, like if you could visualize, it's like each brushstroke's like so smooth, so effective. And because it was smooth and unfussy, and my brain felt smooth and unfussy. It just literally felt cool, like calm and cool and smooth. And so the way he painted inspired me to want to learn how to paint like that. And I started looking into his influences, and I realized that I had already been inspired way back in undergrad. When I was going to school in Chicago, my school was part of the museum there. So I would spend a lot of time in the Art Institute of Chicago. And weirdly, I really, really loved this one painting by Manet, who was I started doing research into Alex Katz's influences, his family tree, his artist family tree. And that's what I think you should do, no matter what you're interested in, whether it's like music, or whether it's writing, or whether it's cooking, or anything. Find someone who really inspires you, and then move backwards and follow who inspired them, and who inspired them, and who inspired them, and find your family tree. But Manet, this painting is life size. So when you look at it, it's like you're looking this person in the eye. And he's a beggar. He's a a person experiencing homelessness, a beggar. And what I loved about this painting was this.
Really?
Makes no sense. The shoes. I was obsessed with
That's
the
awesome.
way. Yeah, and I think that's the sign of a really skilled artist, is someone who can make boring shit look cool. Like, if you can make cool stuff look cool, it's like, yeah, okay, it was cool already. But if you can make something boring and ugly look amazing, that's real skill to me as an artist, because you're showing people that there's beauty in these things that they would normally consider to be ugly, right? And then affecting the way they look at the world. And so what I loved about these old shoes was just how efficient he was with the brush strokes, like whoosh, 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 same with Katz. And so I thought that was very exciting, that you can, make something convincing with just a few marks. And it actually is scarier as an artist to not fuss around, because you have to have confidence in that mark, which is a good lesson in life, I think. When you make a move, do it with confidence, you know? And then I started looking at this Japanese artist, Hiroshige, who did a lot of Japanese prints, like hokusai, similar to hokusai and utamaro. But this was his sketchbook, and he did a lot of like ink and watercolor drawings. And that's who these artists were looking at as well. They were looking at Japanese prints, and that shows the same economy. So when I say economy, I mean they're doing a lot with very little. So, you know, this one whole outfit maybe has 10 brush strokes or 12 brush strokes. And I just think it just feels, it's just really refreshing, right? To look at something that's unfussy, because it makes me feel unfussy in my life. And then I have this, I was also inspired by this Picasso story. It was to have young artists try to draw a perfect circle. And he would say, it can't be done. Everyone draws a circle with particular distortion, and that distorted circle is your circle. So the way, in other words, from errors, wait, I'm trying to move this so I can read it. From errors, one gets to know your personality. In other words, the way that you mess up, that's you. That's not a negative. That's not a flaw. That's your feature. That's who you are. The way you're imperfect is who you are. And so what I realized from that is that, you know what, these people that I really like, I'm going to just copy them. And I can't copy them perfectly. And the way I mess up is that's going to be me. That's going to be my style. Because I think every artist wants to find their style, what makes them unique. And so I think in this capitalist world we live in, there's so much attention placed on originality and creativity, as if someone is just born a genius and all these amazing creative ideas just come out of them. It's just not how it works. It's more like a snowball. Every person collects things from around them, from their world, and then the next generation collects more, and the next generation collects more, and you build on that. And that's how you become creative. You have to, Sebastian's, my husband's favorite quote, you have to eat gold if you want to shit gold. You have to look at a lot of great art if you want to make a lot of great art. If you want to be a great cook, you have to eat great food. If you want to be a great dancer, you have to go see great dancers. You have to take it in. If you want to be a great writer, you have to read a lot of great novels. And you will copy at first, because every student does that, but eventually it's not copying anymore. It's leaning into all the ways that you're different, because you can't copy. You can never copy it exactly. That makes sense?
Yes.
And
I think I told you, like I've told you this before, that when I got out of graduate school, I felt really not very confident, sorry. And so I spent a whole year just copying other people's work.
Yeah.
And then that kind of, and none of it looked like exactly like what I was copying. And at the time I wasn't able to articulate what you said, but that's exactly what was going on.
Yeah, definitely. I recommend it to everyone, especially students. Copy, please copy.
But don't cut and paste.
You know what? Even that, I mean, look, I could probably get myself in trouble because I'm also a teacher. But even in that, like say you cut and paste for an essay, you still have to like make it make sense in the essay, and you still have to understand it before you cut and paste. So I feel like there's still some learning going on that I wish we could accommodate for in a way. But anyway, that's a little tangent.
And if you want to cut and paste, enroll in one of Julie's classes.
Yes, do that. I don't know. I just feel like there's, actually, there's a book that Sebastian was reading, and the whole book is just quotes. And anyways,
I kind of like that.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So I tried to copy Hiroshige's sketchbook, and I was also copying Manet, and I was also copying Katz, all the people that I really liked that were from the same lineage. And so started coming up with things like this. So this is like two people walking on the beach, and I wanted to try to be like as simple as I could. This is early, long, about 15, maybe 18 years ago, a little flower. I was doing little paintings because I didn't have a lot of money to buy materials, and that's, you got to just work with what you have. And then this is a painting from Paris of, it's funny that you brought up Taoism, because I was just having this conversation with Michelle. I'm obsessed with tiny figures in big landscapes. And I think that's a very Taoist thing, because it puts man at the same importance of nature. It doesn't make man more important than nature.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's a little side tangent. If you look at a lot of Asian art, you'll see like tiny little figures on the landscape. But if you look at Western art, the importance, and European art, the importance is on the people. Like, we think we can dominate nature. Anyway, let me go down. Sorry, I always forget which direction. And it also was from that trip. It was spring. It was like during spring break, so everything was blooming, and it was just like a perfect metaphor for my change of disposition and just coming out of my depression, and everything was blooming. And then I of course I have my daughter, so I was processing that, and I was also copying Matisse with this style, like trying to paint like Matisse. And Matisse does a lot of outlining in different colors. And then I also picked up this book, The Natural Way to Draw, which if you're trying to learn how to draw, I totally recommend it, because the way he explained the exercises, I had been doing them for like 7 years and paid over $100 grand to learn. And nobody explained it as well as this like $1.50 book I bought at half price. So
Oh, man.
crazy. But he explained this type of drawing called gesture drawing. This is an example, in such a way that it was like, oh, this is connected to Hiroshige's. This is connected to Alex Katz. It's connected to all the things that I really love. So I started doing a lot of gesture drawings. And because I had my daughter usually in the back seat, she'll be taking a nap, and I would do these drive-by drawings where I had just a big pad, and I would just draw wherever we were parked. So it was a lot of outdoor landscape drawings. This was at that old flea market on Little York in 45 that they tore down. And then this is like one of those beauty supply stores where they have all the like faces that stare at you from the outside. And what I love about gesture drawing is it's a way to draw without having to be perfect. It can be messy, and that's okay. And it was very freeing to me. Gesture drawing is like scribble drawing. Like,
Yeah.
you get to be a toddler again. And it makes you feel very like, oh, I can draw anything then. If it doesn't have to look good, I can draw anything. And then I was making a lot of work, but I wasn't showing. I wasn't showing my work. Nobody even knew about me. So, because I was back new to Houston, I came back from Dallas where we had lived when I had my daughter. And I found about this artist named Carmen Herrera, who was in New York making art around and friends with all the big name abstract artists of the time, like in the 60s and 50s. And because, she had tried to get shows, but people had told her, well, because you're a woman, you're not going to sell as much. So we're not going to show you. And so she just kept making art. And then fast forward, I think it was 2010 sometime. There was somebody dropped out of a show, and and she's Cuban American. They needed a Latin American geometric abstraction artist to fill in. And this guy was like, well, my neighbor paints. And she was like, I think I'm 100 at the time, or 98 or something. And she had a whole other apartment next to hers filled with paintings that she had been making throughout all the decades. And they were able to date all these paintings as being like exactly what was going on at that time in the art world. So she became super famous and quote unquote discovered at like 100. And now she's like a superstar. Like she has fashion shows and she has sculptures all over the world and documentaries about her.
She's still alive, or did she
Yes.
die?
Yes,
That's
she's like
crazy.
105.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and she has enough money to have like a nurse with her all the time now, an assistant that she tells them, okay, paint green there, paint red there. And she's still making art and she's living like, you know, so it gave me, it's not that I thought, oh, if you keep painting, Julie, you're gonna get discovered. Like that part is extra. But what gave me hope was the part of the story where she just kept painting regardless, because I felt like that's what really matters, not the praise you get or the fame you get. It's just that you kept making art. You didn't need, you know, that's what really mattered to her, and it shows. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I have a lot of friends who tell me, "Oh, Julie, you know, the only reason I make art now is when I get a show, and you just make art no matter what." And I'm like, that's just, I think, a weird way to make art,
Totally
because
weird. Yeah.
it's like not for yourself, it's for an assignment kind of, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And one of the big problems with the art world is you have to justify everything before you do it. So I don't like that. I refuse to do that. I'll justify it after. And
Yeah.
even then I hate doing that. Maybe that's why I don't show a lot. But anyway. And then I started, because I'm also an art teacher, I was looking at a lot of art objects, like masks from Africa and ancient art. So I really loved their forms, their geometric forms and the lines. So I started painting these little paintings of these masks. I thought they were fun. And again, copying something I love just to learn from it and just to enjoy it even more. Because I think if you draw something or you paint something, you have an intimate experience with that thing. And you know it better than you could have ever known it. And so I was just like going to museums a lot and just painting the things that I was seeing there. So that's one series. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, when you went to the museums, did you actually, this is going to sound naive, but did you actually paint inside of the museum? Or you
No.
took a picture and then, or you did a sketch?
I did do a lot of sketches, and I also I work from photographs mostly.
Yeah.
I like being comfortable when I make art. So I don't like plein air painting, and I don't like painting on site because it's stressful to me. You know, I like being relaxed. So I will do sketches, like digital sketches, and take pictures, but I do want them to feel like they weren't drawn from photographs, because I think a lot of times when people paint and draw from photographs, a photograph, it looks, you can tell, and it also looks kind of dead, like almost like you were a photocopier, a human photocopier, you know? So I want it to feel active and alive. I don't want it to feel like an exact copy, you know? So even though I am doing it from photographs, I try to energize that and, you know, interpret it in a different way. And then I started doing like these sculptures, but they were like outdoor sculptures and on-site sculptures. And then I did another series with just exploring color relationships and textures and patterns. And you can kind of see the connection here when I go back. If you see these like branches and leaves, they're already starting to create patterns and, you know, marks. And so it led me to this, which is what I was really like kind of fascinated by. And where these take me like less than a day, I usually do a painting in like 4 hours.
Wow.
These like multiple like a weeks. Just take weeks. They're more like how Beth paints.
No, I mean, like it takes me like like 2 months, a year.
Yeah. Yeah, so like you need all the art is what I'm trying to say. You need the stuff that's slow because that does something else for you, and you need the stuff that's quick, it does something else. So these are my slow down paintings, like slow down, chill, and just build up, you know. There's some more, and here's another one. And this is when I was getting into meditation and Buddhism, and this is like what you're supposedly like I think it's called samadhi, where you kind of like reach kind of like nirvana, not nirvana in terms of like heaven, but like when you're meditating and you start seeing like you start like experiencing light. And I don't know, I've only read descriptions, so I wanted to try to visualize that feeling of like complete and utter peace when you meditate. So that's what that is. And then I did a 3-dimensional version of one, so you could walk into it. So this is an installation I did. And then as things started getting more stressful nationally, like politically, and the election happened in 2016, I started getting really back into that dark place again. So I had been collecting these Japanese flower arrangement antique postcards. And so I wanted to paint these because what's cool about Japanese flower arranging is like it's as much focused on what you leave out and the simplicity as it is on the flower. So there's not a ton of flowers like in a traditional Western flower arrangement. It's just like 3 flowers. And so that was very peaceful to me. So I did a few of these. I'm still doing these. This was my own arrangement of thistles. And this is another one I made. So I started making my own. And anytime I'm stressed and having anxiety or depressed, it's like nature is like the main thing I turn to.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've been working on a series of like outdoor paintings. So nature again, called Astro. And so this is a recent one I did. Thank you. And this is another one. These are all on campus where I teach at Lone Star, North Harris. And then another, this is Buffalo Bayou, like at sunset. And then I did a new series of memory drawings. So one of the assignments in the Natural Way to Draw is that every day you should draw something from memory that you saw that day. And it helps you create a composition, but it also helps you pay more attention during the day and try to find that thing that you're going to draw that day. And so I wanted to get away from realism and make my drawings, my art more like dreamlike. So I thought if I draw from memory, it'll force me to be less photographic and more like surreal. So I started doing these memory drawings. They're all digital.
Did it like what this is how old I am. What are you using to draw these with? What's it called?
I use my iPad and an Apple Pencil, and the app is called Procreate.
And did it take you a while to learn how to do it, or did you learn pretty quickly?
Oh, it's pretty intuitive. It was pretty fast. It's not complicated like Photoshop. It's like designed for people who draw in real life. You know, like it's pretty intuitive. I recommend it if you get an Apple Pencil because it's pressure sensitive, but also you can draw on the like when you shade with a pencil on the side, you can do it has pressure points on the side of it as well. And so you can hold it like a real pencil.
And didn't you print them out or
yeah. I print them, and I've also made little animations as well with them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's been fun learning that mainly because I don't have a lot of space for more canvases, and I don't have a lot of money for materials. So the digital is like a fun way to make a lot of art without like taking up too much space. And this is after COVID where I felt like shut in, you know, so this is the one memory drawing. It's like everything's so beautiful outside and yet we're stuck inside, and it's just like processing that has been hard. And this is another one. And it's just little like things I'll notice while I'm out driving or whatever, and just like, it just sticks in my brain, and then I come back home and draw it. Here's another one.
Well, that's pretty. I like that. I mean, I love them all. But this one just like really, it's nice. It's really nice.
Thank you. Like you notice like when you drive somewhere at the same time every day, like going to work, it's like the Monet thing. You're passing by the same objects in the same light, like because it's the same time of day. So
Yeah.
every day I would drive by this patch of, like when grass overgrows and it gets the little seeds.
Yeah.
This little patch of grass between two trees where the light was just streaming down at the right direction every
Nice.
single day for like a weeks. And I was like, you know what? I got to draw it because it was so beautiful because it highlighted the little strands of glass.
Yeah.
So
That
thank
that
you.
painting makes me really happy to look at.
Yay. That's my goal, y'all. That's just basically my goal.
To make people happy.
And then I'm having a show actually in 2 weeks at my gallery here in the Montrose Jonathan Hobson Gallery.
Oh,
It's going to
great.
be it's going to be appointment, so you can go on their website and make an appointment if you want to go see it. I think it should be up for a little over a month. But the show's called The Waiting Place, and it's all art paintings that I've made since the pandemic, and it's a mixture of summer and winter. So I don't know if well, one thing when you're in The Waiting Place, have y'all ever read The Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss?
Yes.
Okay, you know the page, The Waiting Place? If
Yeah.
y'all have ever been to, it's like a purgatory. It's like you can't do anything. Your life sucks, but you can't do anything about it. You can't make any moves. You're just waiting for something to happen, You're waiting for your crush to call you, or you're waiting for a job to hire you. And that's how I felt all year. It's like, we're just waiting. We're waiting for the election. We're waiting for the vaccines. We're waiting for this, and we're just stuck. And what happens when I wait is, and this is what happened in 2008 when I was going through that hard time, is the one benefit is you have time, and you start noticing like nature again. You start noticing things that you would not have noticed if you were like living your life normally and in a hurry all the time. So these are just the things that like, I focus on when I'm in the waiting place, when I can't make any moves, when I'm forced to slow down. So one room is gonna be like all like summer and greens and bright. And then the other one is when you're in the waiting
Nice.
place
Mhm.
and you're sad and you feel like so hopeless. And that's how I felt all winter.
Yeah.
And I don't know if y'all felt this way, but like it felt like the darkest winter ever.
Yes. Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
because normally in the winter you go to movies, you go out to eat with your friends, you go to clubs, you go out, and you don't notice how quickly it gets dark and how long it stays dark. But when you're just not doing anything, you go like, shit, it's dark all the time.
Yeah. Oh, and I just want to like say something because in Robert's talk, I just want students to know this. He was talking about an exhibit that he's in, and they're charging $20 for people to see it. I just want you to know this exhibit that Julie's in is free.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay anything.
And they're super nice. They'll talk to you, and it's actually in somebody's house. So half their house is a gallery, and they live on the other side of the house. So it feels very welcoming. It's not like an institutional, stuffy kind of museum vibe. It's just like you just walk up their front porch and ring the doorbell,
Yeah.
So they're very chill people. And so the night felt like forever. So I did a lot of night paintings. Oh, there it goes right there.
That's really nice.
Trees, my favorite. Thank you. So these are all pretty fresh from this year.
Oh, I think I saw that on Facebook. That's
Yeah,
really
I
nice.
posted it.
And did you like these paintings? Did you do them first digitally and then you painted them, or did you just paint them?
I can't do that. I try, and
Yeah.
then if I do a study and I like the study, I'm like, okay, it's done. I already did it. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to redo it because it's never as good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
I feel
yeah.
the same way too. And usually when I do studies, I'm like, ugh, and then I just exit out.
Yeah. Well, I actually like the studies sometimes better than the painting. So I'm like, why,
Why
I don't
do
know.
it? Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I think it's just practice. Like if I have an image that I want to paint, I kind of know how I'm going to go about doing it.
yeah.
And a study is like, oh, let me just see how it looks small, or let me see how it looks digital. And if I feel something needs to be big, I do it big. You know, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it comes with experience and practice, I think. But yeah, I know those people who plan out every single painting and do like multiple studies. I just can't do it.
Well, I can't either. I can't, I think we talked about this before, but I can only work on one painting at a time too.
Yeah.
Because if I work on two, then I just lose interest in the one that I'm not working on. So
yeah,
I have to get it finished.
Yeah, I'm very impatient as well. I'm like, I need
oh
to
my
get
God,
this
I'm so impatient.
but yeah. And then I think there's one more. No, that's it.
I just lied when I said I'm impatient about painting. No, that's not true.
Well, in terms of like the patience to work on more than one thing at a time.
Oh yeah,
I think that takes a lot of patience. So yeah, that's it. That's where I came from. That's where I'm at now. Do y'all have any questions?
Please.
Comments?
I think that nobody has any questions. Hilda, you got any questions? Hilda, Sarah, anybody?
Yes, I'm here.
Maybe everybody is.
One question.
Oh, good. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so when you were drawing of the dark night that happened in Houston, did you that one? You were outside. Did it inspire you, or did you just thought about the drawing of doing it, or you were doing it just to time, or you just did it because you felt it in that moment of what is happening that night?
That's a really good question.
Yes.
I always draw from and paint from what I see. So I do a lot of me and my pod, my family, we walk on one night a week for like a couple hours. And so especially since it was dark, like around 6, I would see all these trees lit up by like street lights. And I just thought they were really beautiful, but also really sad, you know, because they're bare, there's no leaves. And so I always have to take it from nature, from reality. I almost never just like think of something and draw it, you know, because I feel that like nature is so full of ideas. You don't have to come up with your own ideas.
Yeah.
I think Rauschenberg said, and this is a famous painter, artist, he's like, if you can't think of anything to make art out of, take a walk around the block. If you still can't think of anything, walk around the block one more time. Like, you're gonna find something that's interesting. And actually, that's what I love about photography. Let me go back to my the very first one, if I can. I actually wanted to be a photographer first. I didn't want to be a painter, because that's what I love about photography. You're always walking around looking for, like, especially street photography, you're looking for cool shit to take pictures of, and it's fun. It's like hunting. You're like, ooh, I found something. And so it comes from that. Reason why I didn't do photography is like super simple. The photography department was always telling me I needed to have an idea first. Like,
really?
Yes. And they were like, we'll write your proposal of what project you're gonna do, and we'll approve it first, and then you can do the project. And I was like, no, that's like planning out a date beforehand. It's like, now I'm gonna kiss you right here, and now I'm gonna hold your hand. It's like, that's not fun, that's not sexy. Nobody wants things planned out. Like, it takes all the magic out of making art, to me. And so I went to the painting department, and they did not do that. They were like, oh, we'll see what happens. Just throw some paint on there and have fun. And so that's why I did that. But one thing I wanted to point out, which you made me think of, Hilda, is this photograph is so funny, because I was always showing it to my classes, explaining how it really like healed me. And I finally told my husband that I was using it for that. And he was like, oh yeah, I took that picture when I had a really bad day at school. He had had like a bad critique, and the teachers had like given him a hard time about his art. And so he was feeling really down. And then he looked down and he noticed these beautiful tiny pebbles. And I just think that's really amazing that if you look at art and you give it the space and you make the decision to see it, which means you want to connect with it, you're connecting with the artist as well. Like the feelings that the artists were feeling at that time, you're feeling it too. So like with Beth's example with the Van Gogh tree, she's feeling what Van Gogh was feeling. If Van Gogh wasn't feeling that, he would have never painted the tree like that. So you're connecting with that common human emotion that is, you know, everybody feels sad. Everybody feels alone. The artist felt alone, which is why they took this picture. And when you see it and you feel lonely, you can say, oh, you know what? I'm not a freak for feeling lonely. Other people feel lonely too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, someone's at my door. I'm not going to get it though. Do y'all have any other questions, or does that make sense kind of?
It makes sense.
Good.
Totally makes sense. Well, anybody else with any questions? I wish Renee was here because he kind of disappeared, but he would have asked you questions about when you were talking about those meditation paintings, but he's not here now.
That's
so,
okay. That's the problem with
Zoom.
online. This one?
Yeah. So,
okay.
well, Julie, thank you so much, and I miss seeing you.
Me too.
I miss, yeah, and I'm so happy you came, and Siri's saying sorry I couldn't quite hear you. But anyway, well, thank you very much, and
thank y'all for listening. I really appreciate it. This was fun.
Let's give Julie clapping hands here. Yay, Julie. Thank you, thank you. And
thank you for everything.
Yeah, and I'm on Instagram, just Julie DeVries. And like I said, I have that show coming up, so I can send Beth that information if you want it.
Yes, send the information, please.
Yes.
I will. Yeah, hopefully it can help you too, the way it helps me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. So let me, I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen and talk to you guys about what your homework's gonna be. And then Tarun, I'm gonna talk to you after class, but after I talk to you all about the homework and everything, I'm gonna let you go a few minutes early today because we've been listening to wonderful speakers for 2 hours. So let me find what I'm going to share here. Just give me a minute. I'm going to log back in. Okay. Okay, one more second. All right. So let me share the screen now. So can you see the start here page?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So first of all, many of you did the journal that was assigned on February 12th. Some of you still have not done that journal. That was from when Emily came to class, and that is due today. I extended it a week because of everything that's going on. And then for next Friday, what is going to be due is that, tell me if when I open this, can you see where there's the journals?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So there's going to be a journal due on Robert and a journal due on Julie. And also because you were here today, and for those of you that were here on the 12th, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to give you points for being present when the guest artist gave their talk. They're like within these journals, the instructions are in there, but I also put the instructions for each of them in the Friday, February 26th materials and homework folder. So any questions yet? Okay, so there's one other thing, is that they have extended the like online for face-to-face classes until March the 14th. So that means, unless they extend it again, that means after spring break week, and I'll remind you all this, we'll start meeting hopefully face to face, but I'll send out, I'll just keep reminding you, and I'll send out notifications before then. So does anybody have any questions?
No, well, could you make sure to send out the link for Julie's art?
Yes, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that before I leave today, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you guys, I hope this upcoming week is nothing catastrophic or horrible, or I just hope nothing happens. And y'all have a good weekend.
You too.
Okay, thank you.
Stay
Bye-bye.
safe.
Bye.
So let's see. So Tarun, I figured out what to do so it'll work for you. I don't know. Can you still see? Can you see what's on the screen right now?
Yes, I had a quick question.
Oh yeah, sure.
But is there going to be a video available? Like on last class, there was a.
Yeah, and Alondra, because Alicia asked me about it because she's sick. I will put the video into this folder. I may not be able to get it in there until Sunday, because it's kind of a complicated process where first it has to download, and then I have to upload it to YouTube, and because our class is so long, it takes a long time. So definitely by Sunday, I'll have it in there.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so let me turn up my volume because I'm having trouble. I don't know if I wear hearing aids and I don't know if they're working entirely. Okay, so you see this open page right here, right, Tarun? And then if you go to, where is it? I might have to send it to you, but let me just look in here real quick. No, that was that. Why don't I have, where is it? I'm sorry. I thought I had this folder up here, but it's, why is it not appearing? Let me just close some of my windows here so I can see this better. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry, it moved out of place. So, and if you can't, like when I open this, if you can't see it, let me know. So this is a Friday, February 5th folder. And no, that's not it either. Doggone it. Oh, wait, here it is. Here it is. Just have stuff out of order. I moved it so that it wouldn't be in the way. It's not in that folder.
It's in the January one?
Yes, it's in here. So what I'm going to get you to do, did you tell me, do you live with your girlfriend or somebody?
No, I'm just at my girlfriend's house.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I'm going to get you to interview her.
Okay.
And I want you to so you know a whole lot about her. but I want you to come up with, you're gonna come up with, and tell me if you can't see this and I'll reopen it. You are, can you see this that says interview assignment part 1?
No, it's like I just see the loading sign.
Okay, so I have to stop the share and then reshare. Yeah, this will just be probably the easiest way to do it because everybody else like already did theirs. Okay, so interview questions. Okay, so first you're gonna come up with 10 questions that you don't know the answer to ask her. And I have given examples of questions, but that's just so you have something to go by. But you're gonna come up with your own 10 questions, and then like if it's at all humanly possible, if you can send and follow these formatting instructions, but if you can send those to me by Sunday, then I'm just gonna look over them and then I'll send them back to you. And then from there, and also I'll stop the screen share, but I'm gonna have to share it again in just a second. I also want you to, before you start interviewing her, I want you to look at this interview PowerPoint. And this kind of gives you sort of like the rules of engagement and the way to do a good interview. So then you're going to interview her, and then you're going to transcribe that interview. And the instructions for the transcription are in this February 5th folder. And if it's humanly possible, if you can get those to me by March 5th, like your transcription. And I'm gonna reshare again just because I want to make sure. Oh man, how do I do this? I want to make sure that you see some of the formatting requirements for that. So give me another second here. Okay, let me go back to the share screen. I know this is a lot of work to ask you to do, but also you want to pass the class, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I want you to pass the class. So when you do your interview transcription, and let me back up. So I'm having you send me the questions on Sunday. I will look at them Monday and I'll send them right back to you.
All right.
And then when you interview her, you are going to set it up in this kind of format where you have your name and you're asking the question, and then you have the person you're interviewing's name, and then you have their reply to that question. One thing to know is to do not ask yes or no, questions that can be answered by a yes or no. Don't ask leading questions. Like a leading question would be like, oh, it must have been hard living on a farm. I use my grandma here as the person I'm interviewing. So instead, you would ask a question like, what was it like living on a farm? And then the third thing to remember is like, don't decide something she said is more important than something else. In other words, don't leave out any of her answer. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. And if you have any questions during the week or while you're working on it, Blackboard message me. I check my messages at least a couple of times a day, and I'll respond as quickly as I can, okay?
Okay, so
Oh.
I have to use the questions that
No,
are no.
no, you do not. Those questions were just examples. You're gonna come up with your own questions, and you're gonna try to ask questions that you don't know the answer to. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
You said before Sunday?
Yeah, so your questions, your 10 questions, send them to me by Sunday.
Okay.
I'll send them back to you on Monday. I asked you to do that to make sure that, you know, I'm checking the grammar and stuff like that. And I'm also checking to make sure you don't have any yes or no questions or any leading questions.
All
Then
right.
you're going to
And
interview her.
with the responses, or do I wait to do the responses after?
So you're sending the questions to me first. I'm looking at your questions. I'm sending them back to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're sending those questions to me on Sunday. I'm sending them back to you on Monday. Then you're going to interview her.
Oh, okay.
And then you're going to send your transcript of your interview following those directions in the February 5th folder back to me by sometime Friday, March 5th. It can be at night. It could be in the morning, just sometime that day. You're going to send those back to me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to that, unfortunately, you also have these 2 journals that are due from Robert and from Julie today. And I'll let you catch up before I give you the previous interview that we had, but I'll just let you catch up with all this stuff this week. Okay.
All right.
All right, hon.
I
Anything
appreciate
else?
the help.
Oh, sure. I know, like, I'm sorry I was short with you earlier, but I know that I just know that everybody's struggling so much. And you know, I want to give you a second chance, and then it's up to you to take advantage of that. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I definitely will.
All right. All right. You have, I know you're going to have a busy weekend, but have a good and safe one.
Thank you. You too.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Let's see.